the end zone. Where did he go? You way too slow, homie, I been gone. I know you see, I got the rings, homie, I been flown. Me and the team going for rings, that is the end goal. Hey, I go beast mode, all around the world like Eco. I go crazy like CeeLo, can't stop me like Chico's. I'm suave like Rico, can't be mine no repo. This my home like Depot, can't deny like Vito. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS. I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. Hey, GPS. I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash. Hey,
stop, won't stop going till a player on top know it. Rooftop pit, how sweet. If you really want it, gotta own it. Fight through it, we was at the lowest. Blood, sweat, tears, the components. Riding all year, now's the moment. We are not friends, we are opponents. Yeah, I'm coming for mine. Yeah, I'm making a play, the game on the line. Yeah, I've been on the grind. Yeah, I jump in the spot, I made it my time. Yeah, look in the sky. Yeah, the stars align, no shade to shine. Can't stop it already. Emotional work and devotion, we put in this time. Look, you won't stop my stride. I'll just break your line. I don't tolerate wasted time. Coming to take what's mine. Can't stop, won't stop, going. If you really want it, gotta own it. Blood, sweat, tears, liquor, if you take us down, keep fighting. Off day, gotta bounce back. Might have took an L, we don't count that though. Remember bad, we was down bad. Now the way we looking, gotta doubt that. I know you see the way we moving, giving game. Better listen like a student, don't talk bad it, be about it, do it. Look here, really ain't nothing to it. I got proof for you like tenfold. Always down for the team, 10 toes. You been hater, we been on. Won't quit till I'm in the end zone. Won't stop till I hit the goal line. Never been the one to need a cosign. Can't stop it already, emotional work and devotion. We put in this bedtime, look. You won't stop my stride. I'll just break your line. I don't tolerate wasted time. Coming to take what's mine. Can't stop, won't stop, going. If you really want it, gotta own it. Blood, sweat, tears, liquor, if you take us down, keep fighting. At the end, I'll be there waiting for the rest. I'll take pity on the man who couldn't keep up with my best. No contest, no. You won't stop my stride. I'll just break your line. I don't tolerate wasted time. Coming to take what's mine. Can't stop, won't stop,
I got the keys, I get to work. I am the man, you know what I'm saying. So leave it to me, cause I get it first. Yeah, woo, I've been going all day, man. Same plan, can't change that. Till I'm right around, whole squad sitting back, chilling in the Maybach. Yeah, only as deep as your roots go. I don't do corny like fructose. If you got the drama, that's word of my mama. I'll cover you up like a toast. I was last in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We can do, ayy, we coming up from the dirt, ayy. They tryna get us to fall, ayy. I don't even gotta flex now, boy. It's only win by the fall, ayy. Taking off with the ring, ain't nothing left, man. We the kings, ran with the team, ran with the dream, ran with the one fan in the seats, ayy. I pay my dues, check the receipt. Looking at you, you already peaked. Way back then. You can't follow with my tracks, man. I was last in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up.
Many folks ain't never heard of me, so I'ma introduce myself by using some hyperboles. I am that voice that talks a tongue, but no one chatters back. They rather act like bladders acting spaz on rappers. Matter of fact, that's so real, I can't say like nah yet. Feelings that I caught made me feel that caution. Waiting for the day I get the silence I deserve. So I ain't talking oxen when I say I just wanna be heard. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let him hear who I am. I wanna show you now's our time. Today is my day to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay. Man, I'm finally getting this show. I can spit it raw. Zizzy, y'all. In case you didn't know me, let me tell tell you it's a wrap. Like I'm sick of eating hoagies. They try to lock this top notch down on the low key and provoke me. I stick my tongue at them like Yoshi. I got to show people I can come up and swag. And when they feel my presence, they gon' back up like that. They see me now, they hear me very loudly, crystal clearly. Now they all jocking, pole jocking, trying to be near me. What is that? Now no one's ever speaking but me. When I talk, cause when I talk, it's off of DJ IG. Dag, yo, it's only me and my team that will come with more flavor than a bowl of ice cream. Since the verse is ending, I'ma thank you all for listening. Taking time and witnessing. Now I'm finally glistening. Feeling like I'm Christian. Well, that might not be the word. Beg your pardon, y'all. I just wanna be heard. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let them hear who I am.
I wanna show that now's our time. Today is my day to make you say that, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay.
Martin made him say that. Malcolm made him say that. Bill Clinton, oh boy, yeah, he made him say dag. I mean, dag, do I gotta blab? Make some people mad just to grab me that precious glam like I'm Smeagol's hand? Nah, man, they ain't even right. And I won't test the road, cause I keep this next to my heart. It's like a stethoscope. If you ain't hear that, do not worry. You can rest assured. Google me or look me up with that Dewey Decimal, yeah. To be cherished and be loved is to be heard. To be seen and to be noticed and receive what you deserve. Put them high. No, wait, cuz, see it ain't your turn. Psych, nah. DJ, we spittin' verse. And let that be my testimony. You just learned a lesson, homie. One that talks the talk and walks it is the one who gets the trophy. It's hard for me to step when they be stepping on me, but I ain't the only one. Yeah. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let them hear who I am.
I wanna show that now's our time. Today is my day to make you say that, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay. Yeah.
just along the Nevada desert stands a beacon of light, Las Vegas, where anything can be in the cards. And to begin a 3-race trip out west, the field makes its way to the first stop with another playoff ticket lying 200 laps away. Welcome to the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where tonight the KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to coverage of the second race in the inaugural season of the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series. We're so happy to have you join us on another beautiful Sunday night as the cookout class at the Bowman Gray Coliseum, or Bowman Gray Stadium, is underway. We're in the broadcast booth. I'm Kenneth Bueno. We'll be joined by Francisco Bacchial in just several minutes. And there were many words to describe the ending of the Daytona race just last Sunday to kick off a highly anticipated season. And many things went down. We had several drivers be involved in crashes. Several of them got back into it. And obviously, lots of perseverance with the winner at the end of that, Timothy Stubblefield. It was a beautiful race to have start the season, and while we did have a lot of chaos and a ton of laps at the World Center of Racing, tonight will be very different, although with the same amount of intensity, with that playoff ticket on the line for a bunch of those in the field that could have easily made an argument to win that race last week on Sunday, which let's take a look at exactly how that all unfolded at the World Center of Racing last week. And it was a crazy one from the start. We had two dual races to decide the running order of the field at the green flag of the 125 lapper. This was Chris Cabot and Zachary Hall on the inside and outside of the front row. Then a big crash early on. Alex Muscarella getting sent into the outside wall. It wouldn't hamper the performance for the rest of his race in the duel. Several drivers taking the lead. Chris Cabot taking control. Zachary Hall there late on the back straightaway, leaving the door open for the Lowe's Chevrolet of Alex Muscarella. Despite being in the wall early in duel 1, ends up with the win at the end of that race. Then kicked off immediately duel number 2. Jason Anderson, the Taco Bell Chevrolet, with Kip Easley on the outside. Big drama for Massachusetts Steven Stempien. Engine blown early on. He would go several laps down in the second duel. Then plenty of battles around. And while we did have some more chaos in the first duel, much of a cleaner race in the second one. Timothy Stubblefield barely getting by around Daniel Holdcroft. And then the green flag for the inaugural race. For real, for the points and for the playoffs. Big crashes down the back straightaway early. That was Chris Cabot, who was fast in his respective heat, but unfortunately got involved in this crash that basically took him out. Timothy Stubblefield in there as well. Some good shines by Dylan Hervan out of 6711 Racing, and plenty of good races at the front of the field. Steven Stempien, Kip Easley, Lawson Peel, James Kunkel, Dakota Curtis among those that were fighting for the win when chaos struck. The big one with 6 laps to go in turn 1 catches basically everyone in it. Plenty of the heavy hitters like Muscarella and Stempien. And then DBR took control. The Chevrolets of Kip Easley, Lawson Peel took him to the white flag, but it was Justin Hendry and Kip Easley. Looked like they had the win. They go hard into the wall, and Timothy Stubblefield escapes the madness, and after being involved in several incidents that night, Stubblefield gets the victory and captures the first W in the inaugural Droppin the Hammah Cup Series season. So plenty of the fireworks out there at the World Center of Racing, and I think with the way that race went down at the end, just shows you the unpredictability of things. And the only Ford Mustang in the field, Timothy Stubblefield, walks away with the victory. Well, in this one, we have several races to go through with you for the schedule this season for the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series. Tonight, our first trip to a proper mile and a half. Las Vegas is the first of 3 races out west. Will be followed by Phoenix in 2 weeks' time, Auto Club the week after that, and then we'll go back to the Midwest, Chicagoland for race number 5. We'll go road course racing for the first time in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and we sort of take our trip throughout the United States in order. We start out west after Daytona, and then we go to the Midwest for a little while. We go to the Northeast, and then we start working our way across the country until the playoff opener at Charlotte Motor Speedway in early June, the first day of June, as a matter of fact. So with the lack of mile and a halves in the first 10 races of the schedule, when you look at only Las Vegas and Chicagoland, not that much of a difference in the schedule from, some of the previous ones with the Sunoco Cup Series, and no other super speedways apart from Talladega in race number 8. So tonight will be the first proper challenge at a 300-miler on a 1.5-mile surface in this Las Vegas Motor Speedway. With that, we'll bring in our second member of the broadcast team. Francisco Bacchial finally joins us. Francisco, After what we saw last week at Daytona, it's safe to say really anything could happen, and with Timothy Stubblefield getting the race victory, seems like everything was in the air until that white flag lap. Tonight, it may be a little more predictable in the way this race goes, but it's 200 laps and a chance for the playoffs on the line as well.
Absolutely happy to be here, Kenneth. It is a Las Vegas race day for the second time this week on the KBueno Racing Network. This time I'll be up here full-time after the All-Star race in 4 wide, but we can take some notes from that race, at least from the people we saw competing. We saw Lawson Peel have a quick out on that evening, but he was able to capture the win earlier on in the season. I think he's going to be one of the ones to watch here tonight, among others as well, but certainly look out for the driver, the number 9, to be competitive and probably the one to beat.
And Lawson was really close to the win just last week at Daytona. I mean, him and Kip Easley had been working basically in tandem at that point. And for what it's worth, Drinkin' Bros Racing, even though they have the most amount of drivers in the field, which, I mean, you could say that's a little bit unfair compared to some of the other teams that have at least max 4 compared to a lot of the other groups, then, I mean, maybe you could make that argument. But for the most part, it was a standout effort for Drinkin' Bros Racing, particularly with guys like Kip Easley. I mean, he was there as well. A big force in how DBR got to the end of that race after what was about 125 laps, so plenty of stuff to go about that. Let's get into the track that we'll be facing tonight. Las Vegas Motor Speedway opened all the way back in 1996. It was open before then, but first time that it was a 1.5 miler was in 96. This track, 20 degrees in the banking for turns 1 through 4, and it's several degrees of banking in that main trial. But what's one thing to notice when you take on Las Vegas, especially with this next-gen car, Francisco?
There's some pretty notable bumps there in 1 and 2. You have to be careful when you drive around the racetrack that you don't upset the car, particularly on new tires when they're still cold and low on pressure. Very easy to lose the car there. And then 3 and 4, I can't state just how important it is to get to the white line and don't lose that grip. If the car starts tightening up in 3 and 4, lifting gets you tighter, but you have to lift off the throttle just to keep from slamming the outside wall. You can accrue some serious damage that way. And as this night progresses, Kenneth, the track is going to get faster. There's going to be more grip, more rubber, so there's going to be a narrow line, if you will. So you have to make sure you stay on the proper enough of a racing line so you avoid these issues.
And one thing about this track on fresh tires is that you do have to lift off the throttle, but you don't have to do it that much. So it's really a game of how much do I let off before I start bleeding time to the competition. And then as the tires wear down, when you got to let off a little more, it's a very fun game to play for us to watch, but very stressful for the drivers out on track trying to get a race victory. Let's get you down to the starting grid and give you the lineup for tonight's 300 miler from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway in race number 2. And on the front row, a pair of OGs from the Sunoco Cup Series. Warren Kyle Keith in his SKM Toyota Camry will put it on pole with a 29.897. He's got Dakota Curtis in the car number 43 on the outside of the front row. Back in row number 2 is Richard Swavely Strong Q Effort sitting in 3rd. Zachary Hall put up a lot of good performances at Daytona from the duels to the main race. Excited to see how he can put forth this run from Las Vegas from the outside of the 2nd row. Alex Muscarella, winner of duel number 1 at Daytona last week, will roll off from inside the top 5. Cedric Hunter had an early exit at the World Center of Racing last week, will try to avenge himself for his team, Category 5 Esports, from position number 6. Chris Cabot, the rookie in the 25 car, starts in 7th. Ross Harlow will roll off in the 16 car from position number 8. And then rounding out our top 10, Stephen Harlow in the 11 and Steven Stepien in the 88 car.
Starting P11 is going to be the 3 of Eric Schaefer with one of the league owners, Chris Progar, in the number 7 in P12. Brad Fulham in his 19 will be in P13 with Richard Modric in the number 71. Justin Erb, a strong contender at Daytona, will start from P15 with James Kunkel in the 42 in 16th. Justin Hendry in the 17 was involved in the last lap crash, fighting for the win. Will start alongside CJ Munier in 18th. Sean Kalis will be in the 19th spot with Jason Hastings rounding out the top 20.
We'll go to the rest of the grid as it goes. You'll see several names down this order. Lawson Peel, Brandon Banks, Tony Kibbett. Plenty of the Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolets not in this thing. So you'll see a lot of guys that are at the back of the field probably going to look for the win with 28 cars on the grid as we see it. Well, with this 200 lapper from Las Vegas, let's get a look at our SK Sim Racing race analysis. 200 laps, 300 miles. We'll go 45 laps until the end of stage number 1. Then we'll go 45 for another stage. That will be the second to lap 90. And then we'll go 110 for the end of this race at 200 for the checkered flag. Warren Kyle Keith, Dakota Curtis, a pair of Toyotas will bring us out of turn 4. And for the second time this season, we're racing in the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series, this time from Las Vegas.
Warren Kyle Keith has a healthy lead as he exits turn number 4. A little bit of a tap to the outside wall for Dakota Curtis, but all single file through for most of your top 10. You have to go all the way back to Ross Harlow and Steven Stempian battling for P9 side by side.
Yeah, lots of drivers already singling out Richard Swavely getting to the inside of Dakota Curtis, making that pass complete for second place. So top 3, all Japanese branded Toyota Camrys at the front of the field. Alex Muscarella, the only car in a different manufacturer in the top 5. He's rolling with a Chevrolet, sitting P4 as Chris Cabot lines up in 5th. Early start for everyone, but I'd say lots of patience at the beginning of this one. Unlikely that we would see that at Daytona last week, given that it is a super speedway, although we did see some phenomenal racing across the field. This time around, less experimentation and more driving in the lane that fits the drivers on the field. Here's our first proper battle inside the top 10. Steven Stempian, Stephen Harlow battling inside and outside. This is for 9th on the track. Exactly where you mentioned it, Francisco, and 2 really strong drivers, especially Stempian, the winner of stage number 1 last week at Daytona, gets P9 off turn 4.
Yes, Stempian is one of the more competitive drivers we've seen back in the Sunoco days, the series prior to this one, Kenneth, and also on his limited 4-wide time. He's known for being a fast driver, can get some wins as well, so look out for number 88 at some point throughout this evening. He's definitely going to be someone fighting inside that top 5 and possibly competing for the win well before the night's over.
Well, he's on the inside and already making some moves. He's wiggling through the top 10. It was Cedric Hunter, Zachary Hall, and Chris Cabot, those drivers that he was around. Watch the battle for P4 on the racetrack. And that is Cabot actually there in the Dizzy Solar Toyota Camry. Muscarella making the move up high. We're 2 by 2 already to start this race. I'd say for Warren Kyle Keith, a good sign. Healthy that he can pull away by quite a bit, but it doesn't seem like he is extending his lead by all that much. And as you mentioned it, Francisco, we did have a race at Las Vegas earlier this week with the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series here on the KBueno Racing Network. What did you learn for the most part watching the drivers take on long runs? Because, of course, that race only 134 laps. You extend this one by at least, give or take, I'd say 66 laps at 200 that we have total. So what can you learn if you're a driver out there on track? If you, let's say, watch that race, or if you're one of those guys that took part in both?
Well, my experience was kind of useless, Kenneth. I only got about 3 laps of useful time before I sustained some pretty heavy damage in that race. But some key takeaways is that track position is going to matter. You definitely want to be at the front of the field and avoid the drama, but most importantly is tires matter so much, especially after about 10 laps of using them. It is crazy just how much grip you lose after about 10 laps into the run. You definitely want to have brand new tires on your car. These drivers have 5 additional sets for this race here tonight, so not too many to play with, but you certainly want to put them on at the right enough time to go out there and make a charge. And speaking of making a charge, Chris Cabot in the 25 gets past the 78 and 43 who were battling so hard for the lead that they just left the inside in the tri-oval for him to just steal the lead away as these two continue to battle for second.
We saw that open opportunity as soon as Dakota Curtis made the move to the inside, and Curtis stopped for a moment. He would have the race lead for a little longer. Chances are it wasn't really that good at the end of it, with Cabot taking the race lead and Warren Kyle Keith already migrating to the high side to get a run off of turn 4. And mind you, these top 5 have already pulled away soundly from everyone else behind in P6. Look at the distance from the back end of Muscarella's Chevrolet to the front end of the next car in line, Steven Stempian, who we checked in with earlier. The mess of race cars all the way back from 6th through the top 10 and then the outskirts of the top 15. Plenty of guys already making moves here, but they have bled a ton of time. It's already about 2 seconds between Stepien Chevrolet and Muscarella, the teammate up the road.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Stepien get to the front of this pack, but they've all just kind of held through. They don't really have a draft of that lead group, and since they're side by side, side drafting each other on the straightaways, that's just going to cost some time overall. So right now it is not working out in their favor, but the good thing is that they do have 190 laps to go in this race, and there's Steven Stepien getting a good look at him as he's working his way around this Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Not turning the wheel a whole lot, Kenneth, but he's very steady whilst he's battling the 71 of Richard Modric, who just got to the outside of him. Stepien going to try to see if he can hold on to this spot, Kenneth, but again, they're all losing a good significant amount of time as they're now almost 3 seconds off the lead.
Yeah, they're continuing to battle, which doesn't necessarily help their case at all, right? You think of if you continue to go door to door and fight continuously throughout the racetrack, it's only going to lose you the time from all those guys that are, for the most part, single file in that top 5. They did battle quite a bit, and there's trouble. Justin Hendry gets into Zachary Hall, Brad Fulham. They bang off each other in turns 3 and 4. We're somehow not going to get a yellow flag. The field tries to slow around the 85 Camry. Remember, Hendry was right there, side by side with Kip Easley at the start-finish line. Right as that Daytona race was ending, they both crashed into the wall, but Justin Hendry with a bit of trouble to start.
Let's see if we can get a look here and see what happened, Kenneth, but I mean, we kind of caught it live at the same time. There was some contact that happened here down the back straightaway into turn 3. In this group of cars, there you see the 7 of Progar, the 85 of Hendry, just some slight contact there since the 85 up, and as he's trying to recover it, just comes across the 23, and the 19's an innocent bystander and all that. Probably has some right front suspension damage on Brad Fulham, and he stays out and continues out on the racetrack, though he's now like 11 seconds off the lead.
On the right side, a look from Brad Fulham's Camry. The Canadian just strolling by. That was Dylan Hervatin, that 6711 racing entry right in front of Fulham. And then as soon as Hendry gets loose, I mean, he's going to try and save the race car, but he travels down the banking. There's the smoke slowing down his Zachary Hall, but it's that bit of contact that gets Fulham into the mess, even though he was basically just arriving at the scene. So Fulham with a bit of that damage. Fortunately, all of them able to continue without a massive problem that takes them out of the race. Chris Cabot, the race leader. Warren Kyle Keith back by 8/10.
And you know, Kenneth, listening to the onboard there, he was letting off the entire time going into the corner, not just the amount that you need to slow down to get into the corners normally. He was lifting, almost expecting something to go on, and just at the worst possible time, really, just as he thought, okay, maybe I think I'll get clear of this, there's the 85 coming down the racetrack getting into him.
I mean, there's nothing you can do, though, right? If you're Brad Fulham, I mean, you only have the apron down there on the left side of the car, so not much that you can move in that perspective, but for Brad Fulham, I think the good news is just that he will be able to continue on without a big issue. There's a look at the race leader, Chris Cabot, who's already extended his gap by 8 or so car lengths to Warren Kyle Keith, and despite taking the lead swiftly from all those other drivers that were fighting, it seemed like it was a good move at the moment for Cabot to make, because everyone else behind has not been able to quite catch up, and we were just tuning into a nice battle for 4th place between Alex Muscarella, part of that Droppin the Hammah camp, and Dakota Curtis as a part of D Legacy Motor Club. And there's a look at Warren Kyle Keith, who already tried to make the move on Cabot and already getting some pressure from behind Francisco, because Richard Swavely, a former Championship 4 driver in the Sunoco Cup Series, has been around basically since the beginning of the Sunoco Cup Series when it started. He's starting to pick up the pace. Warren Kyle Keith falling back in the clutches.
And I'll tell you what, they're both slowly starting to creep up on Chris Cabot again, so Richard Swavely's actually been one of the faster cars on the racetrack. He gets to the inside of the 78, and they're going to be side by side for P2. And actually, Swavely gets ahead because it looks like the 78 just had a struggle in 3 and 4, and Alex Muscarella is showing up to the party. He is closing the gap up in P4.
And Swavely, the Casper, Wyoming native in a heavy metal Jesus Motorsports Camry, makes the move on the inside. Swavely impressive early on as of lap number 18. Remember, we go 45 laps until the end of stage 1, so we still have quite a ways to go, and with 100% fuel, you'd imagine that all these drivers will be able to make it until the end of the stage without needing at least a pit stop. Stage 3 will be the biggest story at 110 laps, but as we looked at our SK Sim Racing race analysis. Plenty of things that can happen in between then. How about banging doors 3 wide? Cedric Hunter making the move under Richard Modric, and in the fight with Stephen Harlow at the exit of turn 2.
And there they go. There's the 70 or the 11 rather, trying to keep his pace on the inside, fighting back, but Chris Kroger is able to get by on the outside, and now Cedric Hunter is going to look to the inside, and they're going to be 3 wide if Kroger can get to the outside of Dylan Hervatin there, trying to hold back, and Hervatin's going to keep the spot up, shuts the door off on Kroger. So these group up here out inside the top 10 having a good time. There's Stephen B. Harlow, how he looks inside the race car at his home, and you see he has the setup there, much similar to what we saw with Stempien, just a little bit more wheel in his race car, probably running a different rack and pinion steering. We've seen guys prefer different numbers, but generally speaking, Kenneth, guys will prefer a pinion that doesn't really turn the wheel a whole lot.
And you know, that was a big adjustment when the next-gen car first came out. Everyone was so used to the original stock car steering ratio, where if it was 8-to-1, then you would have to turn the wheel less. If it was 16-to-1, you would have to turn the wheel more. And there was a lot of theories about what steering ratio saved you the most tire. Some drivers said that it's 8-to-1 based on their preference. Lots of others think 16-to-1 when it comes down to the longer run with these Goodyear Eagles. But as soon as they added the rack and pinion steering system with the next-gen cars, you're not dealing with 16-to-1. The equivalent to that is about 1.83 or less. So the number completely switches, the range switches as well. And with these fixed setups, you don't necessarily need to deal with the rest of the car's tuning in the suspension and the rest of that, but rack and pinion steering, a very divisive topic with which driver you talk to, and it's all based on preference, how often they like to turn the wheel and what they think is better for saving their stuff. Boy, we're seeing wonderful fights here inside this top 10. We were looking on board there with Stephen Harlow, Dylan Hervatin up the road, Cedric Hunter sort of leading this group behind Steven Stempien. And then you got guys like Ross Harlow there in the 16, Chris Progrard, James Kunkel. A ton of these guys, Francisco, didn't finish all too well at Daytona last week because they were strong cars and got involved in accidents, or they didn't really get a chance to demonstrate their skill because they got involved in crashes significantly early in the going, like Hervatin and the 45 car of Cedric Hunter. But all these guys strong at Daytona last week, duking it out inside the top 10, 24 laps in the going.
Strong battles going on there just outside the top 10, Kenneth, but I'll tell you what, Warren Kyle Keith has figured out the outside lane. He is starting to bounce some pressure on Chris Cabot for the race lead. He has had a handful of runs coming off the corner, and here they're going to switch. Cabot went defensive the last couple of times, and the 78 has struggled, but now they'll be side by side. There you see just further behind the group, Muscarella also showing up. He's side by side with Dakota Curtis, who is starting to come back in the second portion of this run. So you have a battle for the lead, a battle for P3, one on the outside, one on the inside. There's the 78 trying to clear him on the inside. The 25 gets loose on the top. That hands the lead back to the 78 of Warren Kyle Keith, and Muscarella goes back to the bottom.
You'll look to the inside, 4th, 3rd. That's under former Sunoco Cup League owner Dakota Curtis. Loose in the middle of the corner is Keith. And to the inside, Gabo could make a move. And that's one thing that you got to play safely here at Las Vegas. Sure, you have all the lines available to you, but you run that outside too many times, the right rear tire will go away. And for Warren Kyle Keith, he may need to be eager on the throttle. Gets loose again in the middle of the corner, saving the race car, and Alex Muscarella takes the race lead.
What a moment, and you saw how sideways he was off of turn 2 and just hung on to that thing. I think running the outside, this may be a side effect of that, Kenneth, because now all 3 of these guys, the 78, the 25, and the 32, they've all looked like they've worn out their tires a little bit here now, Kenneth, because they're starting to fall back. P6 Steven Stempien, who at one point was over 4 seconds behind, he is now 2.5 seconds off the lead, and he's within 2 seconds of Richard Swavely. So Stempien, who was patient early on the run, is starting to reap the benefits here on lap 27. And you mentioned 100% fuel window. That means these guys probably don't have to think about a green flag pit stop for another 30-35 laps.
But they do got to think about tires, and that's the biggest concern here as Dakota Curtis dials up the inside on Alex Muscarella. Chris Cabot trying to find a way through in 3rd place, but the Dr. Squatch Toyota Camry peaks underneath, and Dakota Curtis back to the point. I mean, such a strong performance at Daytona last week, could not complete. The rest of it ended up in a really big crash that took him out and ended up in 18th at the end of that, but led 9 laps, and he is way out of whack in turn 2, back to 2nd place, and now in the clutches of everyone else in the top 5.
Well, these guys are all battling extremely hard and losing time to now 6th place Dylan Hervatin, who's gotten by Steven Stempian. These guys are quickly running down your race leaders, Kenneth. They played it smart in the first half. They were very patient. Now they have an extreme benefit of being able to go much faster for the next handful of laps of this run. There's Dylan Hervatin on the right side of the screen within 2 seconds of the race leader, Alex Mostrella. And there you see it on the left side. They're visually a lot closer. Steven Stempe just a little bit further back. He's hanging on just fine, but this duo really starting to make some serious inroads on your top 5 that had pulled away originally by about 4 seconds.
The difference is nearly 0.4 of a second to the advantage of those cars sitting 6th on back. So all of that patience paid off in these first 30, and there are still 15 laps to go until the end of the stage. So there could be a significant wavelength change here and possibly a crossover point between all of these guys that were saving their tires and all of the rest of the field that are staying up front with a chance at winning some possible points. We had 2 different stage winners last week at Daytona. Stempian got the first as they crashed to the start-finish line, and then Kip Easley, the Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolet, taking it away. Those are some extra bonus points given to you, playoff points, if you're able to win a stage at the end of the sector, if you will, of the race. And so that's really, really beneficial, especially if you are not going to get a race victory this year and if you cannot find a way to victory lane. So a possible good sign for guys like Dakota Curtis or like a Richard Swavely, who in the Sunoco Cup Series in history and weren't necessarily the best drivers in the field, but could shine when they needed to at the moment. And so this can mean a lot. But Mascarella up in the front by at least a 10th or so. Fight not exactly done yet with the Lowe's Chevrolet. As the Dr. Squatch car, Dakota Curtis tries to take a look on the inside. No cigar quite yet. 13 laps to go in stage 1.
This group has had a chance to cool down their tires a little bit now from that heated battle, so they're not losing as much time as they were to the likes of Dylan Hervat and Steven Stempian. So now they're kind of making sure they have enough to battle here and not give up too many spots. So there's Dakota Curtis looking to the inside. Those are where the bumps are, but I think at this point in the run, the car is going to handle those bumps just fine with these warm enough tires. And it's just about getting that clean air. We know how important the clean air is with these next-gen cars. Once again, going down to the bottom is the 43, and he's actually going to get to the inside as Mascarella is sideways. They make contact. Mascarella up the track.
Mascarella going all out of place in turn 4. It slows down Chris Cabot and Richard Swavely, but they both save the race car. Curtis still in the race lead, and with 11 laps to go in the stage, we have a bit of drama. Mascarella was in the front of the field and just holding on to at least a car length or so of a gap. And I don't know what happens, Francisco. He got loose. He gets loose in the middle of the corner. I mean, running there in that middle seam, you can lose so much grip. He gets into the side of Curtis, and fortunately, no damage for either of the cars. But Mascarella loses a ton of time, and we were talking about that crossover point with everyone 5th on back. They're starting to make the moves now. Here comes Hervatin on the inside for 4th. There's Stempian, Cedric Hunter, and Stephen Harlow making the move under Richard Swavely, who falls back to 8th and loses at least 4 birds in 1 stone.
Yeah, and on the right side, if we're able to have a chance, it's the same thing that happened to Mascarella happened to Swavely in the exact same corner, just a little bit further back. There you see the replay now. Swavely was going through 3 and 4, and as the 40 and 42 make their contact, as there's contact between Hunter and Hervilla, there's the 32 getting sideways off of turn 4, and that cost them a lot of time and definitely some tire health in that, because now he's starting to fall back, and especially Warren Kyle Keys, Kenneth, who's been favorable to the outside for most of this run, but he is now all the way down to P9. Swavely, I think, had a moment off of turn 2 because he just went completely past the 32 did Warren Kyle Keith. So most of the guys we saw fast in the early portion of this run are really starting to fall back with now 9 laps to go in this stage with across the line for Dakota Curtis.
And this car pays so much attention to slip angle. If you get this car sideways enough times over the course of the run, your tires might just be completely cooked at the end of a 37-lap run, or what will be 45 when we get to the end of it here. So you're dealing with the effects significantly, and we mentioned Warren Kyle Keith falling back to 8th. Richard Swavely drops off to 10th. Mascarella with that mistake in the middle of the corner is back in 7th with no sign of getting any faster on the racetrack because everyone else in the back is starting to make their respective moves. And with about 8 laps to go, give or take, in this stage from Las Vegas, It's all Dakota Curtis at the front. Chris Gabeau back in second, already peaking and making some moves here. Gabeau isn't exactly out of this yet. Last time by, he was about 3/10 or so faster than Curtis's Camry. So while Gabeau made some mistakes early and fell out of touch with the race leader, he's starting to slowly reel Curtis back in, although it's more of a challenge than you'd anticipate.
All this is going on right now, Kenneth, and there's a name we have not mentioned through 39 laps of this race, and that's the 9 of Lawson Peel. He's in the race. He is on the lead lap. He is currently just behind Chris Progar. There you see the number 9 Napa Auto Care Chevrolet. Lawson Peel has had an uneventful first handful of laps. He's not been at the front dominating like we normally see him do in other leagues, including this one. But he's been calm. He's been having a smart and methodical approach to this one, Kenneth. Easily this 9 car is going to be someone to compete with, but not somewhere you're used to seeing Lawson Peel.
Remember, he rolled off 27th on the racetrack at the green flag, and that's because he didn't put a time in qualifying. So Peel has had to work his way through the field, but it's been slower than usual. Often we see, oh, there's a spinner on the back straightaway. Dylan Hervatin is around on the inside of the racetrack.
No
Steven
caution.
Stempian was right there with him, almost nearly going sideways, but the yellow flag does not fly. Stempian remains on the racetrack, and there was trouble there for Dylan Hervatin. Unfortunately, was one of the strongest cars late in the run, and now facing trouble with 4 laps to go until the stage ends.
And I think he got loose on his own just going over those bumps. Kenneth, you just saw it there at the beginning of the clip, and he makes some contact with Stempian in the process, and unfortunately for Hervatin anyways, he spins down to the bottom of the track where iRacing is not going to deem it a caution flag. So that's an unfortunate situation for him. He'll stay on the lead lap. He's 17 seconds off the lead, but not an ideal situation for him, unfortunately.
And with Hervatin in that 67-11 racing entry, he rolled off 32nd from Daytona. And with all the things that happened in the duels, didn't exactly get the best start to the race to kick off the season. Then had some strong runs, then built up a race-leading effort, led a couple of laps to the tune of about, I'd say, 4 laps in that race, and then crashed out, leading to a 29th place finish at Daytona. So Hervatin already in trouble. Thankfully, it's only the tires that get the most damage, but Hervatin will end this stage beneath the top 25 at least, as we see it, as he's fallen back to the tune of 17.8 seconds from the man up front, Dakota Curtis, who has remained his own against Chris Gabeau, who charged quite a bit. But then there's that third place car, Cedric Hunter, with a chance to make an effort at it. He has rolled in laps at least 4/10 faster than Curtis at the front of the field. The only problem is he may not have enough time left in the hourglass for stage 1.
And they are 3 wide further back momentarily for P7. Zachary Hall just went right through the middle of Warren Kyle Keith and the 32 of Richard Swavely to take the 7th spot away from the 72 and the 32 and the 78, excuse me. And he's able to move his way up there. Steven Stempian now side by side with Ross Harlow for P5. You got to remember, your top 10 cars are the ones that get stage points in this stages here in the series, Kenneth. And right now, P10 is occupied by, would you look at that, Lawson Peel, who's found his way up into the top 10 in this race. As there's a moment there for the 43 of Dakota Curtis. He's sliding through the grass.
And it looks like he just slapped the outside wall hard. I don't know if there's suspension damage, but he is slowing down considerably. So shocking all, Cedric Hunter takes away the race lead on the white flag lap of stage number 1, and it was a pretty hefty hit to the outside safer barrier off turn 4. Curtis looked like he was cruising to some bonus points, but off the final corner at lap number 45, Cedric Hunter gets the first Category 5 Esports stage win of the season.
Let's have a look here on the replay to see what happened to the 43, and I don't believe there was any contact with the outside wall, Kenneth. It looks like he just gets loose off the corner with no pressure whatsoever, and that's going to cost him the stage. He already had that damage.
It looked like he had hit the wall earlier, so it looked like for a moment that all of that damage came from a huge hit to the wall. Might have been a lap or so earlier, but he was slowing down considerably, like if he had some suspension damage along the way. So Curtis at the end will line up 13th as a result of all of that, and for the first time this season, Cedric Hunter will get a stage win, this time from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Big time pickup from how we saw him last week, where he finished shotgun in the field, 32nd of the 32 cars in the grouping, and Cedric Hunter will pick up the iRacing official pace car after we go stage 1 completely flag to flag, and we'll get the field down pit road with a chance to talk to Hunter at the end. Well, Francisco, that was a lot, right? We saw so much happen on the racetrack. We saw the top 5 pull away quick early. They fell off considerably late, and then all of a sudden this big-time charge from Hervatin, Steven Stempien, Cedric Hunter, and then some guys just getting out of the mix due to mistakes. Hervatin spinning, Dakota Curtis getting loose off the final corner, and Cedric Hunter gets the first stage win for C5 Esports in 2025.
You'd think with how much action we'd have that there was a caution at some point in there, Kenneth, but no, it was a flag-to-flag race. Fantastic racing, and hope to see more of this in stage 2.
So the field on pit road behind Hunter. Everyone will come in, and after 45 grueling laps, I'd say a lot of them need the fresh Goodyear Eagles. 5 sets of tires for the drivers in this race, so with Daytona not mattering as much with the grip, I'd say that here at Las Vegas, definitely a much bigger challenge, and there may be a lot of more conversations around how many tire sets you're willing to waste before lap 200. Hunter out of pit road in the race lead without a problem. Have to fight for second, though. Chris Cabot, Steven Stempien, Ross Harlow, and Stephen Harlow to conclude the top 5. Let's get a word with Cedric Hunter, winner of stage number 1 from Las Vegas. Cedric, you got a copy?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
All right, Cedric. Well, last week at Daytona certainly wasn't the greatest opening to the campaign, but this may be the first proper step. A quick car late in the going in this stage. What was that like?
It was really good, man. Like, I absolutely love Vegas. My favorite track. I think it's also my best track. I guess the plan tonight is try and save tires a little bit on the short run and kind of be faster on long run, hopefully. And obviously, we got very fortunate at the stage where a couple guys had a little bad luck or lost, the rear of their car and stuff like that coming to the closing laps. So, I feel pretty good though. I feel pretty confident. Hopefully we can get a win, but I'm really just looking for like a top 5 or something just to bounce back from last week. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a family emergency that came around, so I had to kind of hop out at the very beginning of the race, and they got to really show anything. But fortunately, again, we're racing my favorite track, so I'm happy that this is basically my first race.
And we know this is a new series, so a lot of these guys coming from Sunoco, but a healthy mix of new drivers in new teams, and this team specifically, Category 5 Esports. What does it mean to get a stage win for them here early in 2025?
Oh, it's huge, man. Like, we want to obviously, put a stamp on it that, we're here to compete, hopefully race for a championship, race for wins, all that fun stuff. Zach got the pole, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he got the pole last week, so we're just kind of strutting along in the right direction, and hopefully we keep doing that not only in this race but for the rest of the season.
Well, Cedric, we appreciate the time. Congrats on the stage 1 win. We'll see what you can do here in stage 2.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So that is Category 5 Esports' Cedric Hunter gets his first stage win of the season and makes it 3 different stage winners so far in the 2025 campaign. Of course, only 3 stages complete, and this one will be the second of our second race of the season, and this one another 45-lapper until lap 90. So Cedric Hunter, the leader off turn 4. Chris Cabot fast in the opening run. Can he complete a stage victory, though? We'll find out. Green flag back in the air for the tick of lap 50 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Steven Stempien gets a beautiful jump to the inside on the second row, looking for the second spot.
And he's already clear for P2. It is now the 11. Stephen Harlow side by side with the 25. Ross Harlow just tucking in behind these two as Lawson Peel shows up to the fray. He's looking to the inside. He's going to join the fray and here into top 5 for the number 9.
Peel barely got into a top 10 spot to get 1 point at the end of stage number 1 and finally makes this traverse from 27th to a top 6 running position. Stempien, on the meanwhile, takes the race lead off turn 4. The first time we see Stempien lead any laps from Las Vegas. And everyone back then, third on back, continuing this fight. Chris Cabot playing defense on Stephen Harlow, looking down low. Ross Harlow right behind. Those are 2 brothers in the fellow Chevrolets. There goes Ross underneath Stephen. And off turn 4, Steven Stempien with the race lead this time by.
And now Lawson Peel behind the Harlow brothers is going to figure out which lane or which brother he's going to help to advance himself upward. He's right now working with Ross on the inside. He has to back out of that one. Zachary Hall just behind that pair. And now Lawson Field side by side with the 11 of Harlow. There is the onboard of race leader Steven Stempian, who we saw hold up that little bit of a pack on the previous run, but right now he's in the best seat in the house in the #1 position.
And then looking back and forth, that's where you find Ross Harlow, who had a bit of a crazy race at Daytona last week, to say the least. Finished inside the top 5 after wrecking approximately 3, 4, maybe 5 times in that race. Had a really beat up Chevrolet, but at the end of that one, Harlow could be happy with a top 5 finishing position. That Till Valhalla Project car has been around for many years in the Sunoco Cup Series, won a championship back in Sunoco Season 3, and is looking for some of that same success as he tracks down Stage 1 winners Cedric Hunter. Meanwhile, Chris Cabot already making a move potentially on the race leader. He hiccuped for a moment, Francisco, but that seems to be the philosophy here at Las Vegas. You lay off for the first several laps, and then you pounce.
Yeah, you have to let those tires come up to temperature, Kenneth. It takes about 3 or 4 laps because of the tire model that they have. And look at that run he actually got from the outside. He was able to carry that all the way to the inside, and he'll dive it down in there, stay close to the apron, and Stempian checks up enough. It's just going to hand it to him. No real fight from the 88 on that occasion. He's going to make sure that he saves his tires for the latter portion of this run like we saw him do the last time. So now move back Chris Cabot to the race lead once again.
Well, it's a very different situation now for those guys who had to climb the mountain in Stage 1 because they were at the outskirts of the top 10, nearly behind the top 11. But as soon as the tires kicked in for those up front and started making their lives a little harder, all of these guys in Stempian, Hunter, Harlow, and the rest of them began to make their moves. So now that they have gained track position, is it the same philosophy, or do you be a little more aggressive now that you have a higher chance of getting some clean air? Watching back at the race leader, but right to the right side of your screen is a big-time battle. Stephen Harlow just outside of the top 5. Lawson Peel getting crunched through the middle, and Dakota Curtis, who fell off the race lead in Stage 1, attacking here at the beginning of the second stage.
And there's Dakota Curtis now working with the 11. There's just so many battles going on, Kenneth. It's hard to keep up with it on these restarts. Fantastic racing that we see here. A little bit of further action behind there. There you see Warren Kyle Keith trying to make a comeback effort here. Side by side he is with Richard Swavey. Those two have fallen off together really since the opening run of this race. Alex Muscarella's in this mess as well. He's a little bit further back behind there. Eric Schaefer and the 67 of Dylan Herbatin. Like I said, just a big group of cars in this one particular section of the racetrack. They're all trying to move forward, Kenneth. Only a certain amount can at once.
And you've got several of those big movers at the front of the field. Of course, Lawson Peel, who rolled off 27th, is in 11th place. James Kunkel, who had just been patrolling through the field at a moment's notice and started this race back in 16th, is already up to P10. And watch him peek through the middle, 3 wide, nearly 4 wide off of turn 4. A dangerous look to the inside of Justin Erb's Home Depot Chevrolet, but Kunkel fighting against Harlow. Now Peel banging off both of those race cars in the middle of the corner. I'd say this is not the best place to be if you're that 42 Camry. Thankfully gets out of the way, but plenty of cars that could create chaos as we watch Lawson Peel take away P9 looking on the outside.
That worked great for Chris Progar and Lawson Peel. They just rode up top, and as everybody was checking each other up on the bottom, they're able to cruise around and gain multiple positions. And Progar actually is going to move up into the 7th spot in his number 7, going to maybe challenge Ross Harlow for P6. And Lawson Peel is just saying, okay, I'll follow you through.
Look on board with the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet of Lawson Peel, technically the defending winner at Las Vegas if you count in Sunoco Cup history. Got his 6th win of the campaign at that 1.5 miles, which was the penultimate race of the campaign right before the finale at Homestead Miami Speedway. Previous winner behind that was Colin Forrester, who was technically registered in this series, but unfortunately has not made a start quite yet. But Peel, the Mississippi native, is starting to dart and make moves across the racetrack. Just got around Chris Progar in the 7 machine, now on the outside of Ross Harlow, and this is where you get into the meat of things because Dakota Curtis is here. Ross Harlow, of course, right to the inside. Cedric Hunter, Zachary Hall, Steven Stempian, all of them about 1 6/10 or more away from Chris Cabot, who has pulled away.
And look how much 3 wide and pack racing's going on. There's almost 3 wide every single lap for almost multiple rows. You look at this and you just, it feels like Atlanta.
It definitely feels like a super speedway, but this is when the tires are fresh. I mean, we didn't see this often in stage 1 because the top 5 pulled away so easily. Everyone else, we made the battles of their own, but they thinned out to the point where you'd have 3 or 4 wide in some places, but you would not have a pack this deep. The draft is so strong in the middle of the corners, and like I mentioned earlier, Francisco, at Las Vegas, when you have fresh rubber, as soon as you get over the caveat of cold tires, you can almost run full throttle around this place, especially in the draft. So these guys are making use of it, and it is nose-to-tail action. 4 cars in a single line, and I'd say at least the top 13 separated by over 2 tenths.
And I think the person that's single-handedly enjoying this most is the 25 of Chris Cabot, who's now grown a 2 1/4 second of lead over the 88 of Steven Stempian. The 25 just drove up there to the lead, and they're all battling each other. Lawson Peel out of nowhere has moved himself up into P3 side by side with Steven Stempian, but 25 definitely enjoying this one, Kenneth. I think he's thinking, as long as they don't wreck, keep this up. This is great.
And Cabot is only one of 3 cars in the current top 5 that at the last tick of the start-finish line set a lap inside the 30.8s. Cabot had a 30.8, so did Lawson Peel, and so did Zachary Hall, the car right behind the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet in car number 23. So only several of these machines are making moves at least nearly to the same tune of Cabot's Toyota, but now the blend is starting. Dakota Curtis that last time set a 30.840, and he's starting to look underneath Steven Stempian. So already about 16 laps in this second stage, Curtis is starting to fling forward. Cabot is losing his advantage, but 2.1 seconds. Francisco, lots of elbow room could be a possible advantage. And if you're a guy outstretched that far at the front of the field, do you feel concerned, or do you feel more about managing the gap from those behind making moves?
Both. You definitely feel concerned because you don't want to use up your tires too much sitting out there on your own, but also gives you an opportunity to just kind of sit back and manage the gap that you do have. That way, if for whatever reason they catch up to you, Kenneth, you're able to ward them off or just have a better chance of fighting them off, because right now the 25 has no pressure from anybody or anything at this moment in time, so no real reason to go faster than what he has to. But, you know, Kenneth, to kind of talk about the elephant in the room here for a second, it's not been a great week for aviation. Had 2 accidents earlier this week, especially the one over the Potomac River that claimed the lives of 67. And as we approach lap 67, I'd ask for a moment of silence here to honor the families affected by all of them.
Thank you for joining us in that moment of silence to remember the 67 lives that fell at the Potomac River crash that happened between that CRJ for American Airlines and that Army Black Hawk helicopter. A tragic accident, and we also want to send our condolences and our thoughts with the 6 people that perished in Philadelphia that crashed the very next day on an air ambulance Learjet 55. We'll get back to the racing here, though. Chris Cabot in the race lead. We mentioned that 2.1 second gap back to Steven Stempian. It has crunched down by at least 3 tenths. Steven Stempian back there already slowing down to everyone else, but it looks like he's making up ground on Chris Cabot, who is just finding clean air right in front of him, and then everyone else right behind trying to make a look at it. And Cabot had been strong early on in the Daytona races. That did include the duels, and ran a couple of laps up front after starting in 5th with the good results in duel number 1. But after getting hit hard to the outside wall, it unfortunately did not pan out for him. So Cabot ended up finishing back in 27th place at the World Center of Racing. It definitely different turnaround in a positive direction for Cabot, but he just needs to hold on for at least 20 more laps. And from what we saw at the end of the first stage, Francisco, we'd say that you cannot count your eggs before they hatch 20 laps away from the end of stage 2, because Dakota Curtis was off of turn 2 at the white flag of stage 1, and it's only one mistake that takes you out, and Cedric Hunter was able to steal the stage away.
But that saying that we always hear when it comes to racing or any sport, it's never over until it's over. Until you make sure you get to the line on that particular lap, it is not official no matter what you've done to that point.
And, or in the words of Han Solo, never tell me the odds, right? You can
Yeah.
think that things are in your favor, but unfortunately things can turn around in a moment, though Gabo is holding on to the lead as it stands. Watching the battle for third on back, Dakota Curtis was just in that tussle with Lawson Peel for the podium spot, falls short. Then behind him, a pair of Toyota Camrys, one of them Curtis's teammate at D Legacy Motor Club in James Kunkel. Very strong car last week at Daytona, probably one of his best chances to win. And to kick off the season with that much momentum, I'd say is a big positive sign for what could be for Kunkel, who won several races in the Sunoco Cup Series over his career there. Lots of them at super speedways. And then on the outside here of Cedric Hunter, boy, loose at the exit of turn 4. And now will fall to the mercy of Chris Progar, sitting back in 7th before turn 1.
Yeah, the 42's had a great run so far tonight, but is struggling with this long run on this particular case. He's just not able to keep the car under him. There's the 11 of Harlow to his inside now. He is falling all the way outside, trying to battle to stay inside the top 10. In 11th place, Eric Schaefer is looking to take that spot away so he can get some points. And there quickly to the inside is Eric Schaefer, and he's going to take the spot away from the 42, who drops just like that, drops outside of the top 10. Behind him is the 16 of Ross Harlow and the 48 of Alex Muscarella, who was up in the front much earlier.
This is an Eric Schaefer that's rolled off from 11th. We didn't talk about him until basically right now. We mentioned how a majority of the Drinkin' Bros racing cars started at the back of the field from not putting in a qualifying time. We looked at Tony Kibbett, CJ Munier, Lawson Peel, Brandon Banks among those that sort of fell back at the beginning of this one just due to qualifying position outright. But Schaefer was one of the better qualifiers out of that Drinkin' Bros racing camp and has only been able to move up now as he settles into P10. There's a look at the battle for second place. Steven Stempian under fire from a driver he's faced alongside for so many years. And in last season's Sunoco Cup Series campaign, we saw both of these guys go toe-to-toe at several different racetracks across the calendar. And while Lawson Peel ended up the upper-handed driver with the championship, Stempian did give the Mississippi driver a good run for his money. So entering the final 15 of Stage 2, this might be a lot of fun to watch.
And they're both gaining on the race leader right now, so this could quickly become a 3 or even 4-way fight, because that 23 of Zachary Hall is also showing up some good pace right now, and he's catching up quickly to the back of the 9.
Onboard look from the Methuen, Massachusetts native of Stempian. To the right side, the onboard look from Peel.
And you can see the different lines they're running to give them some sort of an advantage, and I think it's important to note just how good the 78 much earlier in the race ran the top, because if someone wants to get a run down the straightaway, that could be an option to try and see if they can run down the outside lane and make a move going into either turn 1 or turn 3.
And we're watching different lines be of use from Stempian, who just ran the middle and arced it down low before Lawson Peel got there and started making moves underneath. But they are already catching up considerably to Chris Cabot. These three machines are within at least half a second or a tad bit more from Gabot's Camry. So at this point, Francisco, there is the damage being done over the long run. And it's exactly what caught several guys out in the opening stage of this race. And before we're even with 10 laps to go in the second stage, Stempian is there. Turn 3.
And Gabot's going to stay running up top. It's the line he started running the last handful of laps. So the 88's going to get to the inside. They'll be side by side off the corner. How much does the 25 fight this, as the 88's going to go all the way to the inside of the travel, so the 25's not really going to fight this one all too much. Stempian gets clear. Steven Stempian to the front of the field, and Lawson Peel's going to quickly follow suit. He goes to the inside, almost gets to the inside of the 88 in progress. It gets loose. Stempian loose. This is going to let Lawson Peel catch up, and so does Zachary Hall.
And these are 4 cars within 0.2 of a second. Here comes Hall to the inside, the bottom alley.
Three
and
wide.
They're 3 wide for the lead. He looks under the Chevrolet Accessories car on the middle lane. Stempian playing defense. Zachary Hall will try and lead them to the stripe, and we're still 3 abreast in the entry to turn 1.
And Cedric Hunter's quickly closing the gap, so if they're not careful, this could become a 4-car battle.
And there's Peel on the outside. Could make this move, but he gathers it as he gets a little bit loose. Cedric Hunter, the Stage 1 winner, was in this exact position nearly, just waiting for the chaos to unfold ahead. before taking control. Here comes Hall, back for the look on the bottom alley to Lawson Peel in turns 3 and 4. And finally, Stempien is able to clear for just a moment. Zachary Hall is still there for the lead.
He got back to the inside. What a good corner he had, and Peel's going to try to push the 88 through. He wants to see if he can back this up a little bit, and Hall's going to dive it deep. He gets clear, and he's going to take the race lead away. So the 23, who was behind both the 9 and the 88, just shows up here and gets past both of them.
The Newport, North Carolina native is starting to move forward. Zachary Hall has definitely put himself in a great position and could get Category 5 Esports their second stage win here at Las Vegas after Cedric Hunter took the first. There's still 9 left to take down, so definitely enough time for Stempien and Peel to make a move. And the same could go for Cedric Hunter back and forth. Keep an eye on that Hello Kitty Camry. Stempien gathers the car up after getting it loose off turn 2. And now it's up to Peel. Does he help Stempien here, or does he try to make a move around? Looks like they'll both take different lines in 3 and 4.
And let's see what Hunter does here, because he also had been closing the gap on the trio in front of him, and they're all pulled away massively from everybody else. So it's really just these 4 cars that are going to be battling for the top 4 positions. And going to the opposite end of the scale in this stage, there's the 16 of Ross Harlow just sitting behind Dakota Curtis, currently P10 in the final position for stage points, and a little bit further back is the 48 of Alex Muscarella. He's trying to see if he can close the gap and take at least something from this stage.
And after the first stage, Lawson was in that Ross Harlow position at the edge of the top 10, just trying to hang on for what it's worth. And now this time it's Ross Harlow trying to get to that exact same moment and get at least 1 point. Here comes Lawson Peel. Big run out of turn 4. He'll knock down the door to the inside. Downstairs look in turns 1 and 2. Zachary Hall will play the defense through the middle, but as soon as he straddles the seam, the car's loose. Lawson Peel to the race lead. 6 laps to go in the second stage.
Took him 84 laps starting from the back of the field to get up here, Kenneth, but it was only a matter of time. And Hall's not trying to quit. Won't get there, though, but look out for Cedric Hunter, because he's not quite done yet. The Stage 1 winner is well in this fight.
And you can immediately think, is it a team game now? Category 5 Esports second and third with a chance at the stage win and a bit more. If Hunter could get second place, oh, Lawson Peel's loose again in the middle of the corner. This allows the door to be wide open on the outside. Zachary Hall back to the point, and every one of these top 4 drivers, Francisco, are experiencing the same problem. They run in the middle, they get into the seams, and the car steps out. It gets Zachary Hall this time, and now he's door-to-door with Peel to the start-finish line.
And a little bit further back for P5 or P6 right now, they're 3 wide. The 11, the 3, the 25 who's fallen all the way back to the 7th spot. Dakota Curtis trying to catch up in the process to get some more points away. They're still side by side of the front of the field. So up and down through this top 10, Kenneth, there's multiple battles for position, all for stage points that are going to be so crucial here. Now coming to 4 laps to go in this stage.
Lots at stake off the final corner here. 4 laps to go. It'll be 3 laps to go. Next time to lap number 90 and the end of stage 2. Chevrolet's on the bottom. Toyota's up high. It's a 2 versus 2 effort. And now Peel has to find that helping hand in Steven Stempien. Zachary Hall has to face the middle lane, and through the bumps, he's hanging on to the car off the second corner. Peel is still down there, and the top 4 at least open by at least a second and a half to those up front. And Hall, Hunter finally take over first and second. Now Hunter once more to the outside for the top spot.
They're all exchanging positions in a good side draft. Peel's going to go to the bottom. They're now 3 wide for that position. As now looking further back, Alex Muscarella is caught up for trying to battle for P10.
3 wide in turn 1. Stepping to the inside, looking for second place. Remember, those are 2 of the Category 5 Esports teammates facing off against 2 of the greatest drivers in Sunoco Cup history, transferring to DTH. Here comes Hunter, back to the inside. A look through 3 and 4. Peels loose in the attempt to cross over, gets to the inside for a moment. Final lap to go in stage 2. Peels underneath for the top spot.
There's actually 2 laps to go, and Muscarella got loose off of turn 4. Kenneth, he's going to lose the spot he had to the Gabo machine, and now Dylan Hervatin moves up to P11, so Gabo might have gotten lucky there and gotten away with one to hold on to P10. He still has a lap and a half to go, but how about this battle for the stage win? Your stage 1 winner of Cedric Hunter finds himself in the top spot. Can the 23 and the 9 and the 88 work together to try to have one more shot to win this stage?
Off the final corner, Zachary Hall is too far in second place. Cedric Hunter crosses the line for lap number 90. And this may be the final lap in stage 2. As we see it, we'll wait for the top 10 to scroll by. Dylan Hervan is going to be the last car to cross the start-finish line, so there is one last gasp in the teammate for Category 5 Esports. Stepien makes the move down low in second. And off the final 2 corners, Cedric Hunter, who said this is his favorite place to race, will sweep the stages from Las Vegas. Cedric Hunter gets the second stage of the night at lap 90.
And a photo finish between Zachary Hall and Steven Stepien to take the second spot away. Hall was able to edge him out, and taking home the final points paying position in this stage is going to be the 67 of Dylan Hervan. But how about Cedric Hunter, Kenneth, with the struggles he had at Daytona, shows up here to Las Vegas, and he's able to sweep these stages.
And has already enhanced the number of laps led tonight. 10 laps only, but it's laps that certainly matter here. Definitely a lot of points for Cedric Hunter. Sweeps both stages here from Las Vegas, Nevada. Zachary Hall, the Category 5 Esports teammate, will lock in second place by just mere feet over Steven Stepien. Lawson Peel was back there in the going, but could not complete a charge until the end. And then Stephen Harlow back in fifth. And as we look down the order, Schaefer, Harlow, Curtis, Gabo, and as we mentioned, that 6711 racing entry of Dylan Hervan off to a good start compared to last week, and getting some well-needed points at the end of 90 laps. So after the first 2 stages, Francisco, clean from start to end. And it's been a lot of fun to watch. Plenty of good racing. 3 wide, 4 wide, you name it, we've got it all.
And Noah Tristan to go along with this, Kenneth. The only car out of this race is Eric Stewart, and I believe he manually drove it to the pit lane and had to exit this race. Otherwise, the 27 cars that are still running, Kenneth, all on the lead lap. That's actually really impressive stuff from all the drivers, especially considering how tight and action-packed the racing has been.
It's an absolute shootout, no doubt, and the field will come down pit road, led by Cedric Hunter. That Hello Kitty machine is getting kind of familiar up at the front of the field. Hunter will take the field down this time, and just like the last trip onto pit road, obviously much calmer than we saw at Daytona, where things got a little more hectic under strategy, but Hunter with the 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles may indeed keep the race lead off of his pit stall. We'll see what he can do this time by as everyone else fans into their pit stall to get things sorted. 1 car's out early. That's Lawson Peel looking to beat Steven Stepien to the jump, but the same running order at the end of stage 2 is the same order at the exit of pit road. Cedric Hunter takes both stages, Francisco, and after the disappointment of Daytona, when you mentioned that family emergency that he had to attend to, we obviously hope everything's all right with the Hunter family there, but I guess this is the first proper step to the season, and he's making the most of the opportunity here.
And I make most of the opportunities when you can, especially when there's just moments that come in the way like that. You certainly don't hope it to be the case going into the race or anything like that, but I mean, obviously there's things that are bigger than the racetrack. Kenneth, I mean, if he had to go through something personal, I mean, we all get it, right? But we saw it earlier this week, and never wish upon anybody, but if there's any silver lining to it, there is that. And now let's see if we can talk to the P2 finisher of stage number 2, the driver of the 23, Zachary Hall. Zachary, this is Francisco in the booth. You had a great run there going for that stage win battle. Just kind of talk us through what it was like in that moment.
Oh, that was awesome, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that, because that was awesome to drive in the car. And it just seemed like we were swapping the lead. The clean air is really loose, and I was a little too loose, of course, right there to hold on to the lead. But happy with second, and we'll see how it goes the rest of the race, though.
And can you just talk us through like what your car is feeling in these long runs? We have yet to see green flag pit stops, so with how flag to flag the race has been, there's a pit stop that's going to be made at least at some point in this final stage. Is that going to be the key to winning this race, is getting on and off pit road?
I really think it will be. Getting on and off of pit road is going to be key, because this is going to be the longest run of the night. The car definitely goes to the loose side, so we're fighting the rear end. So I think you're going to see a little bit more comers and goers this time, with guys giving up some runs since we've had a lot of green flag runs.
We appreciate the time, Zachary. We're going to let you go here so you can focus on this race, and good luck here in this final stage.
Thank you, guys.
And Zachary Hall, who led the field from the pole last week at Daytona, by the way, and did a really good job of it, and gets the stage win this time from Las Vegas. That makes it 2 for 2 on Category 5 Esports stage wins, but this one the longest of them all, 110 laps. 5 laps plus or minus, give or take, with that yellow flag that does chew up a bit of the distance on the racetrack. But off the final corner, Zachary Hall and Cedric Hunter will take it through a Category 5 Esports restart at lap number 95. Green flag in the air from Las Vegas. Stage 3 is underway.
And that's a great restart for Cedric Hunter. Zachary Hall trying to see if he can side draft the 88, but Harlow's actually going to get to his own quarter ban on. Stempion's able to fight back to get back to side-by-side with the 45. He's actually going to have to run here. If he gets enough help from the 16, he's going to clear for the race lead.
And for the first time, Ross Harlow steps into the podium, helping Stempion, the fellow Chevrolet, on the inside. And back in the action is Dakota Curtis, sending it way up through 3 and 4. May try to block Zachary Hall at the exit of the final corner. And just like we saw in the opening run off of stage 2, Francisco, we're seeing the same bit of it here. Near super speedway racing and nearly full throttle on board with Ross Harlow and his Chevrolet peeking to the outside. And that's a pivotal pace of the racetrack, Francisco, because you mentioned those bumps at the bottom end of the speedway. On cold tires, it is a nightmare. Can easily snap this car into a yaw angle that gets you out of shape with no chance to save it. Harlow is trying to peek at that clean air at the outside, about half a lane up the track, but now he's got Dakota Curtis to fight with. 3-car battle for the top spot in turn 1.
Yeah, Dakota Curtis on these short runs, Kenneth, has definitely had speed. He is not shy about letting it go. Look how deep he drives it into the inside. Just takes it away from Steven Stempion and puts a good bit of a gap in the process, too. And look at that 48, who has struggled all night long with some looseness, is finally getting his way back up into the top 10. Alex Muscarella having an up and down night, as you see Ross Harlow and his machine running in P3 right now. The highest we've seen that 16 run, Kenneth. We saw the comeback he was able to do at Daytona with that severely damaged race car. A clean one tonight could see him be a contender for this race win.
And he had started in the top 10, finished in the top 5 at the end of that one. And I mean, Harlow had been through hell and back basically in that Daytona race. And you mentioned Alex Muscarella, who led 14 of those 125 laps from the World Center of Racing, including a dual win that got him on the inside of the second row at the drop of the green flag. I mean, he's been just trying to work his way patiently through the field. James Kunkel shot out of a rocket at the exit of 4. He's looking for second now in turn 1.
That's exactly what I was talking about when I said to use the outside. Let's get a look at that once again, Kenneth. We're going to go with the 42 here and see just how he made this move. There's Kunkel. He's side by side with Zachary Hall. This was for, I believe, P7 at the time, and he just left it rip on the outside, runs enough grip. He has the grip, and watch this move right here off of 4.
And as a beautiful switch to the inside. That is textbook for James Kunkel in his D-Legacy Motor Club Toyota Camry. Makes it a D-Legacy Motor Club 1-2 with Curtis getting away with the race lead by over half a second. And caution flag out for the first time tonight. It appears there's trouble at the back of the field. Justin Hendry is spun around at the top end of the banking. That's turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it looks like some contact with him, and the 7 of Progar sends him up into Hastings, and they just get into the outside wall. It looked like it was 3 cars battling for the same part of the racetrack. The 7 and the 85 were just door banging across the whole front straightaway, and eventually the 85 makes contact with the 4. Nothing that Jason Hastings can do.
Just inside the top 25, that's where Hastings falls back. And for Hendry, who was mere hundreds of feet away from his first win in this Droppin the Hammah Cup Series, unfortunately finds the wrong end of the stick, as they were 3 wide at the entry of turn 1. So a better look at it here from the aerial shot, just banging off Chris Progar. I mean, there's no space for Hendry to get around. He is just at the mercy of those two on the inside and outside. And as Hastings has nowhere to go but that outside wall, it gets Hendry off and away, spinning, and gets him basically parked at the exit of turn 2. So thankfully not that much damage to get any of those guys out of the race, but it is enough to set them back quite a ways, as we are just about halfway through this race from Las Vegas at 101 laps. And this has been a ton of fun to watch. I think with every single passing stage, Francisco, we're seeing a new driver enter the spotlight for the first 20-ish laps, and then they fall back on strategy. Even though things haven't gone the best for Dakota Curtis and James Kunkel over this race, with the tire wear, they have done well for themselves when it comes down to the short run. Let's see if we can dial up Dakota Curtis. Dakota, you got a copy? All right, well, Dakota, it's been a strong start for you. Several laps led. You were nearly to the lead, and the win at the end of stage 1 didn't go your way, but how has your night been so far?
Yeah, we ain't got to talk about that stage. That was a big mistake on my half. I hit the bottom apron and tried to get out of it, and it just turned me around. So I'm right now just trying to make the most of our fresh tires we got, and hopefully make it to when we're going to pit.
And D Legacy Motor Club showing out here. James Kunkel with a rocket move out of turn 4, several laps back. And you and him now have control of the lead. What did you learn over the first 2 stages with all of the tire wear and the way the field crossed over with the comers and goers?
Yeah, I mean, what I kind of learned was, I mean, everybody's running their own line. And, oh my, Warren's talking in the in-game chat. But what I learned was, I mean, you just got to keep it towards the bottom, and you just got to run your line, man. I mean, that's the biggest thing here, is that we've got a lot of guys that are running different styles, and you just got to figure out what's going to work for you. And for me, I mean, running the bottom is the best for me, but I do get some time made up on the top, so I just gotta figure out when to use it and when to time it.
Well, Dakota, we appreciate the time. You've led a couple laps already tonight. Hopefully it stays that way. Best of luck at the next restart.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That is Dakota Curtis for the D Legacy Motor Club camp. Just want to apologize for the language there on the audio as he jumped into the voice chat. But he will take over the lead here. His teammate James Kunkel will follow suit on the outside of the front row. Steven Stepien and Ross Harlow, who patrolled to the front at the beginning of this stage, will follow suit in 3rd and 4th on the inside and outside of row 2. Lawson Peel, who was P4 at the cross of the green and checkered flag at stage 2, is P5. Cedric Hunter, the stage 1 and stage 2 winner on the outside of the 3rd row. And then the list continues with Zachary Hall, Stephen Harlow, Justin Erb, and Warren Kyle Keith, the rest of the top 5. Francisco, pit stops.
Yeah, there were some pit stops under this caution, including the 48 of Alex Muscarella, the 7 of Chris Progar, Robert A. Moyer Jr., Casey Knight, and Kevin Roy. A handful of guys towards the back end of the field brought it down the pit lane. I don't believe any tires were taken by the 48, but certainly I think a handful of maybe have taken tires. Certainly some fuel only that could definitely play a role when it comes to pit stops, reducing some time spent on pit road.
Muscarella had a 5.4 second stop, and for the majority of them who pitted 20th on back, it appears they are all only fuel calls. So an alternative strategy here, as long as we stay green, that's where it'll matter the most. Green flag back in the air. First proper restart after the first on-track caution of the race. Steven Stepien breaks away to the inside for second on James Kunkel. Dakota Curtis with a predictable opening jump to get him away by at least 4 or so car lengths. Kunkel maybe on the mercy of outside 3 wide action. Hunter relinquishes the move to the inside. Looks like he'll stay back where he's at for now. And Stepien in the chase for second. Dakota Curtis leads him off the first lap from the restart.
And Kenneth, look who's worked his way back up into 6th. It's Old Forename, who restarted in 11th, made it 3 wide at the line, and now he sits behind Lawson Peel.
And led a good amount to this first stage before falling back. So Warren Kyle Keith perhaps jogged something down in the notebook and is now using his notes to perfection to the inside of Lawson Peel. This will be in the battle for P5. Now the auction up for 4th. Ross Harlow will have to play a bit of defense on the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet. And to the inside, Peel goes. That'll be a proverbial move for 4th off the final corner. And as long as Warren Kyle Keith can offer some of the assistance to the Mississippi native. And now is where we're starting to see, Francisco, the full establishment of the drivers we're expected to see at the front. I think Stage 1 and Stage 2 showed us that obviously Category 5 esports is not to be messed around with in this race based on their ability to properly tire save. Guys like Steven Stepien and Lawson Peel have already set themselves in as some of the titans to beat if you were to get to a long run at the end. But now we're starting to sprinkle in some of those names that were up front at the beginning of this race, like a Richard Swavely. Do you predict it'll change a little bit more over this stage as long as we stay green?
Certainly, and even if we don't stay green, Kenneth, I just think with the race end getting closer and closer, there's opportunities for guys to try different things at different opportunities just to try and not just get a win, but get a higher enough running position. We've seen the 48 struggle all night long. He's had some speed, but if he can put together a good final stage, he can certainly work his way up there. He made some contact with Eric Schaefer just now in the middle of 3 and 4 as they're navigating the 89 of CJ Munier and the 67 of Dylan Hervatin. There you see on board now with Stephen Harlow further up. This is just inside the top 10. He's trying to get to the outside of Cedric Hunter, the stage winner here tonight, as Swavely is putting on a good run at this moment in time. He's working his way up with the 78 as Lawson Peel dives it in there, almost gets into the back of Stepien in turn 3 as there's Brandon Banks, who we haven't really heard of all night, Kenneth, trying to get inside the top 10.
Stephen Harlow probably has the best perspective here in the middle of this top 10. I'd say that he probably doesn't like to be here in pressure from all of the cars around him, but to give you a scope of how high the competition level is tonight as the track rip is going up and as the temperature is creeping down with the sun setting here in Las Vegas, Nevada in sim, I mean, Stephen is in the exact heart of the situation here with all of these guys trying to get around. Look at Chris Cabot shooting out of turns 3 and 4 with a look on the outside. He'll beat both cars out of turn 4 and step into 8th place. But Harlow, the Fairhaven, Vermont native, only started sim racing approximately 2 years ago, 2022, and outside of the sim works as a strength and conditioning coach. But as I mentioned at Daytona, several chances to win in his rookie Sunoco Cup Series campaign. It just happened to be the final season of Sunoco Cup action as they're casually 3 wide right behind Harlow, but several instances on end where this machine and this driver right here had plenty of chance to win races and showed his strength out. Watch this, Francisco, almost 4 wide at the tri-oval. Schaefer, Herb, Muscarella, now Zachary Hall, a host of cars trying to get around each other, and Hervan nearly getting the bumper in turn 1.
I think he did. That 3 car definitely put the bumper to the back of Hervan, and he's not done yet. There's some contact, and Schaefer's going to get into the outside wall after contact, and there's the 23 of Zachary Hall getting involved. No caution as everybody's been able to point in the right direction. More contact. I think this might bring it out.
And there it is as he goes perpendicular to the racing line, getting caught up with C.J. Munier. Second on-track caution out from Las Vegas. And it is the second place finisher in stage 2 that gets into the peril. Tons of hits across that Toyota Camry. And yeah, it was right about there when we saw live Eric Schaefer, Sean Kalis getting into it off of turn number 2. And that's where the problems persisted for Hall, who just got stacked up in the mess, basically in the middle of the sandwich. Let's get a better look at this one from the aerial shot. Hall is that gray and orange Toyota Camry on the inside, right in front of that 28 machine, Casey Neiden. And as Kalis and Schaefer make the contact, they check up in front. Hall slows down. CJ Munier gets into the rear of him, trying to avoid it. And then Hall is just bouncing off race cars. That's Richard Moyer Jr., the owner of Freaky Fast Broadcasting. And then as he patrols down the racetrack and down the banking, that's where he catches CJ Munier. Let's see if we can get another look at it this time from the onboard perspective of Zachary Hall. This is actually from Sean Kalis, perhaps, maybe with Eric Schaefer right behind as to where this all started.
And there's the contact right there. It looks very similar to what happened in the 4-wide All-Star race between Eric Schaefer and Steven Maggio on one of the green flag runs there. It's just the car on the outside drifts down just a little bit, and it's enough to make some contact with the driver on the inside. We do have some pit stops, Kenneth, but it is not the entire field either. Looks like a handful of guys decided to stay out here, including the 42, the 43, the 78, 32, 67. You have to go all the way back to the race winner off of pit road of Steven Stempian for the first driver to take to pit road here. And looking up and down the pit lane, it is 4 tires for everybody that just stopped now. So we'll see what this does for the strategy of those guys that have stayed out, which is your current top 5 runners. So split strategies. Kenneth, what do you make of this?
I don't know. This is very interesting, but it appears that with the way this race is gone, I mean, there's definitely trouble at the beginning of the stage. You can argue that with some of the jitters or just the packed racing that's going on. So I'd say this isn't a bad call, but you have to hope that this goes green all the way, because that's where you put James Kunkel and the rest of this top 5 in a corner. At that point, they are forced to pit during a green flag run that will still wait a while for Stempian and the rest of them to come in, so it will force the top 5 to pit, and it may put them a lap down or more, and that's where the troubles begin for them. They're going to have to hope for another quick yellow to either give them a shot at coming down pit road, or if, you know, there is some sort of other silver lining in this that the top 5 can save a set here, which you're sort of telling me, Francisco, could be the play. I mean, 5 sets of tires to start this race. You burn them off more than midway. You know, you maybe won't have enough for that last dash should we get a late caution flag.
These guys have been lucky in that the stages went green, because that means that they've only put on brand new tires that's at the stage caution. So this is really the first time we've seen split strategies of tires and no tires for a restart, and we'll see what that does here as far as how traffic gets managed, if there's any big wrecks that come out of this, because it's never really a great thing when you have old tires, new tires. There's always some kind of chaos that goes on there. But we'll see how this plays out. The 88 is the first one on those 4 tires. If they're able to get back to the lead, I think it's fine. But they're certainly playing a risk because if their run that they get is short enough but long enough that they have to pit, they lose the tire set advantage or the tire advantage that they get now because they'll be on a level playing field and down a set.
I wouldn't say that for Kunkel and Curtis, this is a shocker of a call. It's definitely not as much of a shocker as the Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis trade that transpired more than 12 hours ago. But we are ready for the green flag restart at lap 115. The pair of D-Legacy Motor Club Camrys will take us back underway. Warren Kyle Keith sending the shove to Kunkel, gets the first and second cars clearing away into turn 1.
You mentioned it, so now I have to answer to it, Kenneth. I don't think anything will be as shocking as that. I was not expecting it. I think the Dallas Mavericks personally probably made a bad move there, and we'll see if this is a bad move for them.
Well, here's a move to the inside for second and possibly for the lead. 67-11 Racing with the single car operation of Dylan Hervatin probably looking for the lead off turn 4. And after Hervatin got loose off of turn 2, that basically got him out of some decent stage points earlier on at lap 45. Here he is at lap 116 for the top spot in turn 1.
And a handful of laps ago, he had made some contact with Eric Schaefer, who was sideways in turn 1, and now he's leading the race. So, good move so far for the 67. Those tires have not made too much of an imprint so far. Everybody that stayed out is still in this top 5. And there goes Stempian, still trying to see if he can find some positions out of this, as Lawson Peel and Brandon Banks are working together. Banks with the highest we've seen him running so far this night.
And we know that at least for the first 5 or so laps on the run, everyone seems to be pretty equal on pace, but the tires will start to matter later on in the going, as we noted Warren Kyle Keith and several others burning off, particularly the right rear tire, where things get all out of whack. Stemping to the bottom, trying to peek underneath Richard Swavely, who started this race up front, led a couple of laps in the opening stage tonight from Las Vegas, but unfortunately has not replicated the same success. Gabot, Peel, Banks, and everyone behind in the top 10 trying to make moves, but it is an absolute roadblockage ahead of the Massachusetts native Warren Kyle Keith and Swavely, not making it easy at all.
Yeah, those tires are hanging on a lot better, so, I mean, this is important. You take some notes from this, and you could use this at the end of the race if you get a late enough caution, depending on how many laps your tires have and how many laps to go in this race. I think everybody has looked at this strategy, seen that everybody that has stayed out has kept the track position, and is thinking to themselves, I think we can make this work if we get the right opportunity.
And with 100% fuel, I mean, you're still a ways away from making it to the end on a fuel tank, but you are a lot closer than all of these guys at the front, who, if we stay green, could be in peril here, because as soon as they are about maybe 50 or so more laps into their stint, they will be forced to pit, and that will be with at least 50 laps to go as this race has trended green flag racing. Dylan Hervatin, the race leader by 2/10. James Kunkel, Dakota Curtis, now engaging in the auction for second. Richard Swavely has slowly crept up to 4th place, looking for 3rd. And then that's where you find Warren Kyle Keith. And then the first initial crossover for those on the fresh tires. The only one making a proper move is the Dizzy Solar Camry of Chris Gabot, making inroads now off turn 4, the onboard look.
And he's right up to the bumper. He's going to get to the inside of Swavely here on the front straightaway. And he's going to get the move done. Yes, he will. So Gabot starting to pick off some positions here. We saw him lead laps in stage 2, and unfortunately for him, fell all the way back to P10. But now he has his eyes set on Dakota Curtis for a podium position, and a teammate of Dakota Curtis, James Kunkel.
And here is where everything starts to blend, but you could again argue that Chris Gabot is starting to waste more of his tires and what is available for the grip life, just like he did earlier in this race. Remember, he had the lead to at least a tune of 2.3 seconds, erased in a matter of moments by the time the stage was coming to a close. So Gabot is making use of the positive momentum now, but this reminds me of a little Dark Horse Motorsports in the 4-wide racing camp at Las Vegas. Strong early, then started to fade off as soon as the tires got into their proper heat cycle. Curtis is a bit loose off turn 4, opens the door for Gabot. Gabot to the inside for second.
To speak on the positive spin on this for Gabot, Kenneth, I will say the difference is when he's done that, the tires are right behind him. Now, on this next run, the tires are going to have to go by these same cars. So there's a good tire difference in it right now. There probably won't be any tire difference in a handful of laps. So it could work out for him. Let's just have to sit and watch.
Well, now he's already creeping up to the race leader, Dylan Hervatin, and this is where things get spicy. Possible chance, a change for the race lead while Hervatin is just getting comfortable up in the front. Remember, it was 5 cars that stayed out on the older set of tires. They're around lap 30-ish from their initial start to the run. Chris Cabot on the fresh tires is 11 laps deep in his run, and so is basically everyone else. Approximately 7th on back from where Steven Stempien sits. Boy, that's a big wiggle off turn 4. Hervatin wheels the race car to keep it straight, travels down the track to give some dirty air to Cabot's Toyota Camry, but the fight is far from over. Cabot to the outside looking for the lead.
Oh, he's not going to hand this one easily, is he, Kenneth? But, I mean, that tire advantage is just going to give himself the spot on the inside. So expect Chris Cabot here to drive it deep into turn 3 and clear for the top spot.
Hervatin in control for most of this initial run, but things could change in a matter of moments. Already, Cabot is several seconds ahead of Stempien, the next fresh tire car. Hervatin will hold his own, but there is the situation where Cabot could waste all of his tires catching up to the top 5, and especially in the fight for the lead with Hervatin, who we know, again, is going to be brute forced in staying where he's at. Chris Cabot may be in some deep trouble, as here's the look at everyone 7th on back. Stempien, Banks, Peel, Harlow to the back end of the top 10, and then that's where you find more of the Drinkin' Bros Racing camp with Eric Schaefer sitting in 11, just where he started tonight, and then TOW Racing's Justin Erb.
Oh, Cabot's there on the outside again.
Cabot looking for the lead again. It looks like turn 1. There he is.
He's on the outside. He has the advantage. He's going to roll right by him.
So Chris Cabot off of turn 2 finally snags the race lead away from a slower Dylan Hervatin on tires. And coming to 70 laps to go, Cabot in control as Warren Kyle. Keith peaks for 4th. Dakota Curtis starting to fall off, and so is James Kunkel. They are absolutely on edge at the exit of the final corner.
This battle's going all the way up and down this field, Kenneth, as the long run is starting to make its way in now. There's Steven Stempien ahead of Brandon Banks. Brandon Banks has had a good start to this final stage. He was just outside the top 10 for really the most of the first portion of this race, but as the laps are winding down, driver the number 5, who's had a struggle the last handful of months with this race car, is starting to slowly but surely get some momentum going in the right direction for him. He's got Lawson Peel and Ross Harlow a little bit further back. So keep an eye on this group as they start to close the gap on those guys that stayed out. How long does it take for them to get through that traffic and eventually capture to Chris Cabot?
Banks came home in 20th last week, the opening race at the virtual Daytona International Speedway, and if you count Sunoco Cup Series history, he only has 1 career win. That came of the way at the Monster Mile Dover Motor Speedway, and told us back then how competitive the series was. And you revive it here with the DTH Cup Series. You add some new names, some of them from the feeder MPI or Simax Xfinity Series that ran the day before the Sunoco Cup Series would, with the B cars on iRacing. I mean, you've got plenty of those names that are around each other or have raced with each other for many years, and Banks is one of those OGs in sim racing. We talk about how Steven Stempien has been on iRacing for quite a while, started racing with NR 2003 back in the day. Brandon Banks.
Oh, caution.
Oh, look, caution flag out for the first time tonight. Looks like Tony Kibbett, Dakota Curtis off turn 4.
With Cedric Hunter involved as well, some suspension damage maybe on the 45, was rolling backwards there. Oh my.
And the 2-time stage winner tonight in deep trouble. It was a sizable crash off turn 4. We'll take a look at how it all began. I believe it started around Curtis, who was up the road and just smacks James Kunkel, Hunter, and Justin Erb at the outside of the racetrack. And I don't know what happened there, whether he got loose to the inside of the track or whether there was something that went down. Here's a look at Curtis from the aerial shot.
Something was going on with the 43, but he had no damage, so I'm not sure why he was getting down there, because he was not at racing speed by there. I was listening to the onboard, Kenneth. He was slowing down like if he was trying to get to the apron, and he didn't fully get down there. He drifted back up the racetrack onto oncoming traffic, so I'm not sure what was going on, but it was definitely a dangerous situation by the 43.
A look on board from TOW Racing's Justin Erb with nowhere to go as the cars come up the 20 degrees of banking, and it involves both of those D-Legacy Motor Club Toyota Camrys who spent a decent amount of time at the front of the field. Here are takers on pit road, and surprisingly enough, Francisco, tires for some of those guys who pitted nearly 20 laps ago.
This is going to be interesting, Kenneth. I think most of the field has made their way into the pit lane under this caution, with just the exception of Chris Cabot. Looks like Lawson Peel is the first one to exit pit road. So really the 25 is the only one to stay out. That means that he still has 2 sets left, along with the people who stayed out on the previous caution. They made their way onto pit road. So everybody has 2 sets left, and most of the field has 1, with what is now 68 laps to go.
Remember, the field can go a long way, so I believe at this stop, they should be okay to make it to the end of this race on gas, apart from Chris Cabot, who will be in a situation where he may have to save, or he will inevitably have to come in. It's probably going to be really close to the window, but I mean, you're running 70 laps on tires. I don't believe it's viable here, Francisco, and so you're expected to waste the tire set at this moment, but now you just have several cars of Lawson Peel, 7.2 seconds. CJ Munier, 6.9 seconds. Everyone fourth on back, taking 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. And for those who are wasting their tire sets, they're looking at probably one stop left available for them, like you said. I don't know. This is looking a little risky for those majority at the front of the field.
We've seen more caution flag for incidents on this last stage, so I would definitely, if it was me, I would like to keep at least a tire set for some kind of late run to the race. Because these guys, let's say you get another 40-lap run here and a caution comes out with 30 laps to go, Kenneth, you have to take a tire set. You can't stay out with those old of a tires. And then let's say a green-white checkered happens. What do you do then? It won't be fun.
You know, how many times have we seen overtime restarts be decided by 2-tire pit stop calls? Lots of them are enough to gain track position in their own right.
Just earlier this week, we saw a tire strategy go wrong for Tyler Murray in the All-Star race, and we saw a photo finish happen as a result of it.
Well, we saw a lot of carnage, too, at the inside of the racetrack, involving, of course, those cars that did stay out. Kyle Benson was able to take the lead for about 4 seconds before Bauman got to the inside. This time it's Chris Cabot, the solo car, taking no tires on this last cautionary period. We'll go green flag racing, 140 laps, nearly there. To 60 laps to go, 134 laps in the books as soon as we cross the start-finish line. Chris Cabot in command. Lawson Peel to react on the inside. Green flag back in the air. Another on-track caution and another on-track restart.
And on board there with Steven Stempin on the right side, who we know has 4 tires. They're 3 wide already in front of him. CJ Munier gets stuck in the middle. And Stempin's going to cross all the way to the bottom, trying to figure out what he has to do to get by him.
Well, remember, Stempin in the last run didn't use as much of the Goodyear Eagles as we expected him to. And Chris Cabot, on the other hand, said, I'm going to the race lead, full stop. But now he's the car on old tires. Out of turn 4, he wiggles the Camry. To the outside is the 6711 Dylan Hervan car, looking for the lead. Richard Swavely up to second in turn 1.
And they see... Oh, I actually heard the 88 clutching there, Kenneth. He is saving fuel.
It looks like he may be on the window, and he pitted that last time by on a nearly 15-second stop. So if Stempin is close, everyone else may be at risk as well.
I'm on board with them now. Let's see if we could show the spectators just exactly the proof of it. There you see the engine tachometer. Watch as he goes into turn 1. He's going to shut the car off.
Radio silence.
This is going to be interesting, these last 60 laps.
And hearing the onboards from the likes of Dylan Hervan, Richard Swaley, they're not saving at all. They are running up front as normal, as if they can make it. So if Stempin is the only one looking to save fuel, is it just a precautionary effort, or is everyone else potentially in the same boat, expecting another yellow to fly or another break in the action to allow them to come down pit road? At least for now, Hervan is comfortable in clean air and in the race lead, and back in control, already led 14 of the 137 laps tonight.
Mark Palkeith to the inside of Lawson Peel, gets by him now. Peel, I believe on 2 tires, is drifting back just a little bit. We know the 25 is the only car guaranteed not to get to the end of the race just because of the lack of fuel he had since he didn't pit under this caution. So he's banking on at least having another caution to give him an opportunity to fill up the tank and maybe use up a tire set that he has saved now compared to most of the field.
And so we keep an eye on everyone in that top 5, but separation, the name of the game at this juncture of the race, very different from the beginning of our second and third stages. Tons of pack racing, nearly 2 and 3 wide. I think here, as soon as Francisco, everyone has noticed that the fuel strategy will be the biggest point of concern for these guys. They're starting to filter into their own lanes and get wherever they're going just in their situation. Gabo has fallen back to 3rd, and a possible chance of losing even more track position. Brandon Banks is behind, and the previously mentioned Warren Kyle Keith is right behind him with a chance to make a move, but everyone is already in their own game. Stepien has bled off a ton of time. He's back to nearly the exit of the top 10, which won't be the best situation for him. But as for everyone else, they're thinking business as usual. Keep it going. Brandon Banks onboard look with his Chevrolet.
Into the top 3 goes Brandon Banks. He has shown up here in this last stage, Kenneth.
And that lasted for a moment. High. Here comes Warren Kyle Keith. Peak on the inside, he's by. And that's the battle for P4, selected and done. Dakota Curtis, CJ Munier trying to pick up the pieces in 7th and 8th. Remember, Curtis went spinning at this exact part of the racetrack in 3 and 4, right in front of the traffic, including James Kunkel and the Stage 1 and Stage 2 winner, Cedric Hunter. So Curtis already starting to move his way up to the front. He already gets by Lawson Peel in the effort for position number 6. So, Francisco, if you're in this situation, are you saving fuel like Stepien, or are you running this drive?
I don't know. It's easily a either-or situation. I'm not sure the exact number that a full tank can get you under normal circumstances, Kenneth. I know it's around 60. I'm just not sure how many after 60, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. As you see, the battle for the lead is heating up. Richard Swavely's closed the gap over to Dylan Hervatin and is trying to use the outside as a way to get around him. He should get a run off of turn 2. How about Justin Hendry, Kenneth? He's had trouble in the earlier portion of the race, and he has recovered, even with some damage on his race car still, and he's now moved his way into the top 10.
Well, he was involved in our first on-track caution of the race, sitting backwards in turns 1 and 2 with Jason Hastings basically staring right at him on the racetrack. I mean, Hendry has definitely paid his resilience here, and after Daytona, the absolute heartbreak that it was nearly at the race victory, and you just make slight contact with Kip easily, and all of a sudden Hendry finds himself head-on into the outside wall, watching Timothy Stubblefield take his first career victory. I mean, it must be an emotional toll quite a bit when you think of the what-if here, but for Hendry on this mile-and-a-half track, given what he's experienced, a top 10 finish would be a beautiful blessing for him. And his Toyota Camry will keep an eye on him as he stays ahead of the saving Steven Stepien. Watch this battle for the lead. An OG and Richard Swavely facing off against a new face, Dylan Hervatin. And Swavely, for that honest heavy metal Jesus Motorsports name for 2025, is staying at least in touching distance.
It's making sure he's close enough. As long as you're in that mirror, you can force some kind of mistake, especially if it's consistent enough. Hervatin, who had a good showing at Daytona, started in the back, got to the lead relatively quickly, and unfortunately didn't have a great finish to Daytona, but here he has shown up with some great pace and is in contention for this win right now here, sitting with approaching 60 or 55 laps to go.
And there's a good look at the distance back to 3rd place Warren Kyle Keith, and a touchback with Richard Swavely. He has a special scheme for tonight's race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This is a tribute to the band called Hemlock. They are a hardcore metal band out of the Las Vegas area, and they are one of the biggest and longest tenured 100% independent bands out there, according to Swavely. So he has decided to go with a local name, a local music effort with Hemlock, and it is awesome that Richard Swavely is paying homage to that. Not many drivers do it with specific cities on the schedule. We know some tracks like Darlington, the throwback race, Nashville Super Speedway, and you can theme it to music and go back in music history. But Richard Swavely is getting a deep cut here with Hemlock, and he is doing a beautiful job of showing this paint scheme off from 2nd place, searching for the top spot.
Heavy metal's considered something of the past, Kenneth, when you think of just music genres, but it was actually well ahead of its time. If you ever get the chance to listen to some of the more lyrical songs of the past from some of the big name bands, it's such ahead of its time. There's stuff from some of those songs, whether it's religion or politics. There's definitely a lot of stuff in that you can relate to in today's day and age.
And for this Hemlock band, Swavely has been friends with those guys for several years, so he encourages anyone, if they see Hemlock out there in a local club in the U.S. or in Europe, to tell them that Rickman sent them. So here comes Richard Swavely. What a move off turn 4. Looking for the lead. He makes contact. They both slide in turn 3. Hervan saves the race car, and we're still at it out of turn 4. Unbelievable.
Wow. That is going to invite Warren Kyle Keith to close the gap, and they're still side by side, racing each other hard.
And for Warren Kyle Keith, this is a blessing in disguise. This is the first thing he wants to see. More contact in 1 and 2. They are aggressively racing for the lead. Hervan steals it back out of turn 2.
Oh, and Warren Kyle Keith has a big run. He's going to join the party and battle for this one. Let's see if we can get a replay of the initial contact.
So we'll look on the right side as to what happened here with Richard Swavely and Dylan Hervan. It was nearly side drafting, but contact at worst there. And they were door-to-door for a moment. This was the initial contact down the Lella straightaway. So into turn 3, Hervan arcs down. And that's exactly where Richard points his front bumper for his Toyota Camry. But what a save by Dylan Hervan to keep this race car under control to prevent a yellow flag. And he still has the lead. But to the curse of Warren Kyle Keith, approaching now inside 5/10.
And slowly his worked his way up through this group of cars and is now running in P2. So, someone who we saw contending for the lead early on in this race and has since then struggled, but old Fourname has found his way back into the top 5, and he's not going to go away. There's a gaggle of cars back here. I think all of these guys are saving fuel, Kenneth, just considering how far back from the lead they are. This group is all being led by the 85 of Justin Hendry, who quickly got to the front of the group, but has kind of parked it there since. Has not really tried to drive away from them. I think he's trying to save some fuel in his own right, with Eric Schaefer and Lawson Peel behind him. You have to go about 2 seconds ahead of this group to find Chris Cabot, and an additional 2 seconds to Brandon Banks. That just goes to show the gap, as there's some 3 wide there with Justin Erb, Tony Kivett, handful of cars there battling all for position. This is just inside the top 20. And look at the Harlow brothers with the Mozzarella inside.
And this is a solid place to save fuel. You're in the middle of draft, and obviously you've got a ton of traffic there too, but if you are in draft with everyone, you have a higher chance of letting off the throttle and staying at least where you are. A look on board from the Ross Harlow machine sitting in 12th, all of that traffic sitting behind fellow teammate Alex Muscarella, Stephen Harlow there in the background, and the bit of side-by-side that was 3 wide for a slight second with the likes of Tony Kivett, Stephen Harlow, and the rest of them. On board with Harlow, he is also hitting the clutch pedal in turns 1 and 2, so in the same boat as Steven Stempian, all of these guys know that at least with 47 laps to go, there's a long way to go, and they still have a ton left to save. They're going to have to hope either for a yellow flag or a potential situation where they can just make it on fuel mileage.
And we may have a battle for the lead here in a moment, because Warren Kyle Keith has closed the gap on your race leader, and he is right there.
Into turn 3, Hervan still with the lead. Warren Kyle Keith in the slow but sure effort to pick up speed. And as Hervan faced a contentious Richard Swavely in the last several laps, it has killed the rest of the grip life on his flying Goodyear Eagles. Warren Kyle Keith, the 3rd winningest driver in Sunoco Cup history, takes a peek to the inside, looking for the top spot through the bumps. Hervan is holding on to the car. Warren Kyle Keith to the inside for the lead. They make contact off of turn 2, and they both save it again.
Oh, but the 78 definitely got the worst end of that, as he takes the lead as Hervan is sideways.
Hervan is saving it through the apron. He catches the transition, and sideways he goes to the racing surface. Is that a yellow flag? iRacing says no. Let her go.
And the leaders say no, as there's the 25 making his way to pit road.
Chris Cabot, first caller, I believe, is going to come in this time by, and there's the yellow.
That worked out great for the 25. I think that's exactly the strategy call he was hoping for.
So he's on pit road as soon as the yellow flies. And I don't know whether this was officially for Hervan, who got into trouble, was already on pit road, or if there was another problem that we may have to watch for. But Hervan was nearly the trigger of the yellow. it appears the call came a little bit too late. Here's a look at what happened with Hervatin and Warren Kyle Keith. Flailing off turn 2, contact nearly with the wall, then down into WKK. And Hervatin saves it, but as he tries to bring the car to the inside of the racetrack, here is where the trouble persists.
Yeah, he's trying to run as fast as possible, but he kept it down there and kind of looped it and sat there, and I think he called it. I believe I heard his voice on the race chat trying to call that one out, and the admins manually threw the caution. So let's see if we can get a third-person perspective here from Richard Swavely, as they're going to make their way on the pit road shortly. There is the 78 stacking some air, getting the 67 loose, and right here just gets loose enough off the corner and spins into the 78. That's some hard contact for the 78, Kenneth. That he might have some damage there.
And then Swavely gets by. I mean, he doesn't see the rest of it until right about there, as soon as Hervatin gets that transition point between the apron and the actual banking of the racetrack. That's where Hervatin goes sideways. So the admins throw the caution a bit late. Warren Kyle Keith is on pit road, and that is a better look at the damage to the right front of his car from the hit off of Hervatin's machine from turn 2. He will have
not everybody
pit stall,
pitted.
though. There are several drivers on pit road, lots of them Toyota Camrys. Lawson Peel, Brandon Banks, among those I believe that have stayed out here. Brandon Banks will make this risk and stay out, and that also includes Steven Stepien, who takes fuel the last stop and was saving the entire run as Warren Kyle Keith leads them off the pit lane.
This comes back to that having just one tire set left. You don't want to bolt them on with 40 laps to go. So they'll stay out here. 8 cars that stay out here. Banks, Schaefer, Stepien. The 2 Harlows, Alex Muscarella, Tony Kivet, and Richard Motrich. Those are your 8 that stay out. Everybody else on pit road. Progar with a 5.2 second stop. No tires for him, so that's important to keep note of.
So it is everyone 9th on back to enter pit road, and that includes the leader off the lane, Warren Kyle Keith. Let's get a word with old 4-name. Warren, you got a copy with us?
I do.
All right, Warren. Well, it is a interesting call here to come down pit road a little bit over, or rather under 50 laps to go here in this 200 lapper from Las Vegas. What'd you make of that last run, the contact, and now this pit road decision?
Well, the run was going to be fun. It was going to be a nice split strategy. Everyone else was saving fuel. We were gapping the pack by, 3 or 4 tenths a lap. It would have been fun, but that 67, he was hitting a 32, and I knew when I was getting alongside him, it was going to be some kind of contact, I'm sure. And sure enough, I've got about 1.5 minutes of damage on the right side. So we'll see what happens. The car is definitely not 100% now. But I'm hoping this right side damage might actually help the car handling-wise tonight. It seems it's very, very loose. So hopefully it tightens it up.
So with this run here, you've got definitely a ton of alternate calls here. Lots of the guys at the front were saving fuel in that last green flag run. You, on the other hand, just sort of going guns blazing and making your way to the top spot. Now that you've got this final pit stop done and you should be okay on fuel, what's the mindset here for this final stint?
We still got squirrels looking for nuts in the field, so I'm sure we'll have another yellow, and we still have a set in the pit. So let's just go balls to the wall and see what happens.
All right, Warren, we appreciate the time. Best of luck in the next restart.
Thank you.
So that is Warren Kyle Keith hanging over with the D Legacy Motor Club guys in the effort to help them get to the race win. But Drinkin' Bros Racing, much like they did at Daytona 7 nights ago, are in control of a race late in the going. Brandon Banks, Eric Schaefer, first time we see them on the front row all night long, and it's for a restart with 40 laps to go. Green flag in the air from Vegas. Harlow with a decent jump to get second before turn 1.
And he's up there trying to see if he can get ahead of Schaefer. Schaefer's going to fight back on the bottom, though.
Schaefer underneath. Healthy jump by Banks. Does this alter Eric Schaefer's approach here? And does he play a little more defense? They're nearly 3 wide at the back end of the top 10. And keep an eye out for Warren Kyle Keith, who now just gets into position number 7. Gets by the Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolet of Tony Kivet. They're 3 wide off turn 4.
There was some contact there involved with the 12 and the 43, who just cruises on by to move his way up into the top 6. as they're still battling for position. Some 3 and 4 wide going on throughout this field. Kenneth, just everything we've seen out of the restarts here today is not really gone away, no matter what lap it's been.
And a bunch of drivers who, at some moments, looked like they would be out of this race, either on strategy or outright track position, have clawed their way back into this deal. Lawson Peel, who finished 4th in stage 2, nearly invisible for most of the last stage, the last sector really before the last several yellows. And here he is, sitting behind Alex Muscarella, pushing him into turn 1, and that is for the last spot into the top 5. We're 3 wide at the exit of turn 2. Stephen Harlow, Dakota Curtis, and several others there. Lawson Peel once more. Inside look to turn 3.
3 wide with the 11 cruising by on the outside. Here comes the 43, Dakota Curtis. We've seen him be strong on the short runs. Look at this run he gets.
Off of turn 4, outside look on Stephen Harlow, the red, white, and blue Chevrolet. And this is typical of a run by Curtis, using the tires early in the run to gain the track position that he could lose later. He'll look all the way to the high side of the 20 degrees of banking, make that 2 birds killed with 1 stone in turn 2. Harlow and Stepien beat off the second corner. Dakota Curtis moves to 3rd.
Getting that track position while he has the opportunity, especially with the amount of cautions we've had. He's going to try and see if he can use the track position later on. Lawson Peel still fighting one of the Harlows as Muscarella almost has the outside wall. He's still battling away with Gabo and the other Harlow.
And look at the difference in speed off the final corner. That is 26 laps in favor of Dakota Curtis on tires. He blows by Banks and Eric Schaefer, who hold on to 2nd and 3rd. The next car on fresh tires is sitting back in P5. Lawson Peel looking for the move underneath on Steven Stepien. It'll get nearly disastrous there in 3 and 4. And how about Chris Gabo, who pitted as soon as the yellow came out, got the track position back, and car number 25 is back in the mix.
And don't look down, but there's Dakota Curtis' teammate James Kunkel doing the exact same moves that the 43 did. He is slicing and dicing up there on the top, using the outside momentum to make moves, get by these guys. Oh, he tapped the outside wall there off of turn 2. It's going to hurt his momentum a little bit, but that's not going to stop him from going up there. You see he immediately jumps back up there and is continuing to make runs, gets to the outside of Stempien in 3 and 4. He's going to get to the outside, also Swavely in the process. So he's moving his way up towards the top 5. Chris Gabo doing the exact same thing, but on the inside, he's side by side with Lawson Field for position. And Schaefer and Banks are continuing to battle for P2.
Curtis and Kunkel using that outside lane over this last run, sort of like a Disney Fast Pass. They're skipping the line here. They're just getting around everyone at the expense of their Goodyear Eagles, of course, with now under 40 laps to go. Around 35 and less when we cross the start-finish line next. Kunkel, though, getting some air packed in the front of him with the 2 Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolets. 3 abreast down the trial wall. Chris Gabo to the inside. Eric Schaefer through the middle. Lawson Peel pushing his teammate Banks up top. And they're 4 wide contact, and they're 3 wide now for 3rd place.
What a move by Gabo.
Gabo peaks down low. He gets 2nd. Battle for 3rd is still underway. And mind you, these are the healthy mix of old tires and new tires in this field. So at this point, Schaefer and Banks are losing ground, but they may not be bleeding enough time that they thought. How about 4 wide down the trial wall?
They are not done making it 4 wide throughout the night, Kenneth. That probably won't be the last of it, but Banks is starting to really get shuffled out, and I think he's probably thinking, yeah, I'm just going to hang on to this race car because he is now down into the 14th spot. Here comes Kevin Roy to take away 14th.
He's becoming the biggest loser here in the early portions of this run. Schaefer, on the other hand, is maintaining his ground as far as we see it, but that ground may be completely dust by the time it's over. Banks has already fallen back to 16th. Eric Schaefer, as we watch him, still running inside the top 7. So there's a look at the race leader. Dakota Curtis out by at least half a second over Chris Gabo. Lawson Peel sitting in 3rd, and mind you, basically all of these cars that are at the front 5 or 6 are all on that most recent pit stop strategy to come in as of the last yellow. So they've got the fresh tires. They have the fuel to make it to the end of this race. But as for Gabo himself, making that call put him on an even playing field. He made a big risk, Francisco, and one of those last yellows to stay out as the only car there. And as the entire field tried to get around them, Gabo held his ground, and thankfully that caution got him right back on track. And here he is, outside look on Curtis for P1 in turn 3.
And I think Curtis is going to let him go because I think he feels he's saving the tires a little bit better, but we'll just have to see. And at the same time, there's the move by his teammate, James Kunkel, getting to the outside of Lawson Peel. So they're side by side for the lead and P3.
That's a peak for third, possibly hoping that a yellow flag could come out at some point in this race to save them on tires. They have not been able to sustain their pace over the long run. As soon as we get around lap 20 to 25, yellow flag is out. Trouble in the back. Tony Kimmett, Warren Kyle Keith, and others involved. And there is Warren Kyle Keith torn up at the apron.
Yeah, they were almost 4 wide once again, and eventually this time there was contact that happened between Justin Hendry and Warren Kyle Keith. Eric Schaefer gets a piece of it. And actually, Eric Schaefer went into the catch fence, Kenneth.
Let's get a better look at this from an aerial shot in turns 1 and 2, and this is a hellacious crash. 4 wide off the final corner. Ross Harlow is in the front. I believe there will be some contact nearly there in turn 1. It's right here. Hendry gets into Warren Kyle Keith, and Schaefer catches air, rides, and straddles the outside safer barrier, catches Richard Modric at the end of that one, and it is a nasty impact in the corner. Let's get a look from Schaefer on the right side.
And this was about half a lap before. You see Schaefer hanging onto his race car. Here come the tires to the inside, and he's now outside 3 wide. And right around here is when Justin Hendry's going to make that contact. And watch this view.
Oh boy.
That's not fun.
And I think he escapes it with minimal damage, so I believe he's all right for the most part. But the easy call, come down pit road and get this car repaired. But there are several others joining him. Steven Stempian will lead several cars into pit lane, and that does include former race leader Dakota Curtis. So this is a gamble inside 27 laps to go. 4 cars stay out this time.
And now what do? Do they take 4 tires? Do they take 2 tires? And I believe there's going to be at least someone from those that have pitted here, Kenneth, that will not have a tire set left in this race, and we'll have inside 25 laps to go. When we go back green, your top 5 have stayed out. Brandon Banks is one of them. Richard Swavely, James Kunkel, Lawson Peel, and Chris Cabot. So, see, the first to exit pit road is going to be the 43 of Dakota Curtis, and I believe he did 4 tires, so that goes to show 4 tires up and down the pit lane for everybody that did stop. So it's going to be important for this restart. And we've seen tires work well for the 43, so considering he's taken 4 tires here, has better tires, and he uses them early in the run, I think he's probably going to be the one to watch because he's been making insane moves on these restarts with level tires. Now he has a tire advantage.
And then there is the opposite of the spectrum in that regard, and you look at a guy like Steven Stempian, who for a majority of this race, when he comes down pit road for tires, even if he has the upper hand, he waits for the moment. It doesn't exactly trigger off like a Dakota Curtis or a James Kunkel that they just fire their way through the field. Stempian holds his artillery and waits for the right moment. And for a guy like Stempian, I mean, this could be a good strategy here with about 27 laps to go, possibly 22 or 21 when we get back to the start-finish line. That is more than enough time for these guys at the front to waste whatever's left on their rubber for all of the guys like Curtis and the several heavy hitters early in the run to fall off quite a bit, and Stempian could hit that sweet spot. But again, limited time could call for different measures based on the context of this race. Chris Cabot, the race leader, followed by Lawson Peel at the exit of turn 2 here. This will be row number 1. James Kunkel on the inside of the second row, followed by the Hemlock Toyota Camry of Richard Swavely. Brandon Banks is in 5th. Dakota Curtis is the first car on fresh tires, back in 6th place. And remember, Brandon Banks is on the oldest set of tires in this field. While everybody, a majority through the top 4, are running on 16-lap-old tires, Brandon Banks is sitting on old 42-lap-old Goodyear Eagles. So he is in the trenches as we get ready for the restart.
And how about Chase Elliott getting the victory in the Clash? That's what Lawson Peel's hoping for, some success.
Trying to get the 9 car to victory lane, just like the Dawsonville, Georgia native did after capturing the pole for the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. And we'll get this restart here. Cabot has controlled a solid amount of this race. Lawson Peel has spent most of it doing the work, heavy lifting in the mid portion of the field. Back to the green flag at lap 175, 25 laps to go, and the 25 car up front, Brandon Banks loose to the apron in turn 1.
getting out of the way for everybody. And that's going to leave the 16 of Harlow almost making contact with the 43 of Kunkel. Stempian with a great restart. He's to the inside into the top 5.
Watch that white car on the outside of at least the 4th or 5th row. Car number 43, Dakota Curtis, is on the fresh set of Goodyear Eagles, and that's where he makes his money, on the outside lane. In 3 and 4, he'll have no place to go. We're 3 abreast for 2nd place. Midway through is James Kunkel, Stephen Harlow, Lawson Peel going. We're 3 wide, 2 rows deep.
Oh, and he almost runs into the back of his teammate as Swavely goes way to the outside and gets out of the way of the 43, but that has cost him relative to Steven Stempian, who he's probably racing with as far as someone who pitted with him.
That's another car on fresh tires to watch for. Harlow is the patrol machine here to the inside of a fellow Chevrolet. In Lawson Peel, Gabo looks at the rear view camera mirror and is saying, continue, continue, continue. Let me stay up front. 24 laps to go. Harlow on the inside for 2nd place. And this is where you strike your moment in this final run on the fresh tires. Harlow to 2nd place off turn 2.
Dakota Curtis is struggling to stay in front of Ross Harlow on this restart. He is just absolutely having to wheel it to stay with him, and he's not really able to make the moves he's done on previous restarts. And he's going to lose the spot, actually, to the 16 off of turn 4.
A look on board with Stephen Harlow as he tries to catch up to Gabo. And despite being on what is now 15 lap fresh tires, then Lawson Peel sitting in 3rd. The distance in the draft is just considerably letting the Mississippi native stay in touch with Harlow here for 2nd place. It's 2/10 back to Chris Gabo, the race leader. And for Stephen Harlow, I mean, the smart call maybe to save your tires for the rest of this run because you have the track position. Now what do you do with it? Do you try and elect the gunning move to Chris Gabo, or do you stay back in 2nd and wait for the rest of the field to tell you the story?
Well, we've seen the 88 be patient all night long. I think if there's any time to not be patient, it is going to be now, especially with the driver in front of him, Lawson Peel, because even though Lawson Peel didn't pit, he's definitely someone that can still win this race and drive just as fast as the 88, even with the tire disadvantage. So the 88 is racing the 9 just as much as he is these leaders. And how about Alex Muscarella? He's had a great recovery. He's running inside this top 10.
A driver who crashed big time with 6 laps to go at the end of that Daytona race, got caught up in the big one, was basically the first driver there. And in that hefty crash, there were lots of great moments for Muscarella Chevrolet at a point where we thought he might have been done for after crashing at the beginning of duel number 1, finally got his way through. And Muscarella, who came home in that Daytona race 19th after starting in the top 3, is looking for a solid top 10 run to kick off the intermediate campaign in 2025. Gap between your top 2 leaders, 1 car length. Gabo, the race leader. There's Harlow in striking distance. And the question is, when does the move happen as we cross the line next for 19 laps to go?
Gabo was loose off at 2. Harlow's going to look to the inside. Gabo went defensive to the outside. So they're going to be side by side here off of turn 4. If the 11 can keep the grip up and side draft him, and he is. He's side by side. Lawson Field's going to try and take advantage of this.
And now here come more of the fresh tire takers. Ross Harlow is in this mix. We mentioned Muscarella, Dakota Curtis, Chris Progar among those that are starting to enter the foreground into the top 10. Harlow remains adamant on the bottom, not enough to beat Gabo off the corner, and Lawson Peel will play a rather pivotal role here as we get to this lead battle, because if Harlow cannot clear Gabo's Dizzy Solar Camry, it's all up to Lawson Peel to give the drafting help. Thankfully, the Droppin and Hammah 11 car gets through, and Stempian to the inside looking for 3rd.
And look at Muscarella. There are 5 cars under a blanket.
And even more, Chris Progar, Ross Harlow, Dakota Curtis. It is a absolute hornet's nest of race cars. Harlow still cannot clear Gabo for the top spot. He does off turn 2, but here comes Stempian down to the inside for turn 3.
And Field tried helping Gabo so that they would stay side by side for 2nd. It might work out for him. And no, Stempian actually gets clear. He'll go up in front. And there goes the 25. Now getting help from Progar. There's contact between Progar and Peel. Chris Progar, remember, is on tires as well. He's trying to move his way up through, and he's not helping Lawson Peel and Alex Muscarella in the 48. As now it's a battle between Harlow and Stempian.
Oh, and there's a spinner. Ross Harlow is in trouble down the Nellis straightaway. He travels down the track, catches Richard Moldrich, and there may be the yellow flag as Moldrich hits the outside wall hard. Yellow flag out with 17 laps to go.
That was not pretty, and Tony Kivet actually gets a piece of it there at the end. Kenneth, 71, innocent and all that. The 16 spinning down the track, and just calamity corner. And Brandon Banks, Casey Knight, and a couple other cars got in it late.
And these were guys that were basically in the aftermath of this entire situation. Knighton's Dutch Bros Camry doesn't pick up any damage, but for the likes of the spinners behind in Richard Modric and Ross Harlow, that is a death sentence perhaps here at this juncture of the race. We'll take a look. It was down the back straightaway where this all happened, and it seemed like there was initial contact to the outside wall from KBueno, and it catches Progar and Harlow. And as soon as Harlow travels down the track, I mean, Richard Modric is just trying to get away from the mess, and in turn, that just causes more trouble. Here's another look here from Harlow.
You see Peel was loose as well. The 25 is, and I think he got loose and also made some slight contact with, I believe it was Chris Progar who was pushing KBueno. Just too many cars in the same spot on the racetrack. And there's the contact.
Hit. That's Tony Kivet slamming into the rear bumper of Knighton's Toyota. And then Brandon Banks, Justin Hendry among those that are right at the end of this incident. Justin Hendry just slams into Banks as he was completely halted on the outside of the corner. That is nasty, taking a bunch of drivers out. And so here is where the moment is decided with 14 laps to go. I believe these guys at the front have already made their bed. But look at the amount of cars that are sitting on the racetrack. Not many, because everyone else behind just came down pit road, and that list includes Lawson Peel.
But there's enough laps on their tires where it shouldn't be too big of a factor for the amount of laps left to go in this race. Here's an onboard look from the 71. That contact from Modric. Watch this.
Just sideswiping Modric's Chevrolet at the last second. And that's what gets him in trouble. He's parked in the middle of the track. I believe, thankfully, no one else got into him after. But for Modric, just minding his own business, nearly got away from the accident. Gets caught up in it. Modric will end up with severe damage. Sits back in 21st place. Just want to give you a rundown of what our field looks like. We started with 28 cars on the lead lap. We spent a majority of our race with the field entirely on the lead going, but as soon as the attrition kicked in, so did the problems for several others. We have 23 cars on the lead lap right now. Dylan Hervatin is the first car a lap down or more, 32 laps down. He has exited this race. 25th place will be Sean Kalist, 53 laps down. Robert A. Moyer Jr. for Category 5 Esports sits 26th, 74 laps down. Jason Hastings, who was involved in our opening on-track caution of the race, in turn 1 with Justin Hendry, is 86 laps down in 27th. And like Francisco mentioned earlier on in this race, Eric Stewart had backed out early, so didn't really put any laps down from Las Vegas. He is 169 laps down and counting. Francisco, what do you expect here with 13 laps to go? We have at this point everyone 8th on back, starting with Kevin Roy down pit road and the rest of them staying out. What do you see here?
Well, we've had a chaotic last stage. There is going to be 13 laps to go. I'm going to put my money, like Las Vegas says, on that this won't be the last caution. Certainly some chaos is about to unfold.
We've got a 25-year-old hungry for his first win at the head of the field. Stephen Harlow with Steven Stempian, multiple-time winner at Daytona in several leagues, wants his first checkered flag of the year at a track that he knows that he's very good at. In row number 1, they'll lead us back to the restart with 13 laps remaining from Las Vegas, Nevada, into the Geico restart zone. And a healthy jump by Harlow gets him clear of the field. Entering turn 1, his Droppin the Hammah teammate settles back in second, and it's a DTH 1, 2, 3, nearly 1, 2, 3, 4 into turn 1.
Regards, Gonna get clear for the 4th spot, and Lawson Peel actually gets a great restart. He's going to find himself up into the top 5 perhaps here going into turn 3.
And here comes Stempian looking for the lead. Turn 3, he's got it. Muscarella to the inside, finding for second. We're 3 wide back for 4th on back. Lawson Peel trying to play defense against Progar and Curtis. Car on the wall, it's James Kunkel. 12 laps to go. Stempian up front.
A lot of things going on right now, but one of them is the toe to Curtis and Lawson Peel. They're going to try and fight them for the win. They're not done out of this yet, as Muscarella now is up to P2.
The onboard look from Steven Stempian as he watches his teammates 2nd and 3rd, and a highly approaching Dakota Curtis is back where he's been all night long, the outside lane in 3 and 4.
This is where he's made all his moves all race long. It gives him the run down the straightaways. He's to the inside of the 11.
He'll look for the spot on Harlow this time by, and as Curtis has become the short run king over this race from Vegas, this restart may be the right moment where he doesn't fall off in enough time to let the rest of the field catch up. He's still in this heavily contested fight. Lawson Peel will get the second man help on the outside with Stephen Harlow, and the Dr. Squatch number 43 is into third. Still a tough gap to pick up, though, as Alex Muscarella performs the crossover inside for the lead.
Side by side for the top spot. We'll see who comes out of this, though, but if they don't want to battle too much, because that 9 and 43 will show up as Muscarella just takes it away from him.
But does Stempian respond? In turn 2, he's given ample opportunities to let the field by and then give them the exclamation point at the end. There's still 9 laps to go when we cross the start-finish line, so a ton of time left as Dakota Curtis decides to peek on the outside of the Chase Elliott car. Lawson Peel under fire. Stephen Harlow's there. 3 wide for third down the straightaway.
It's going to help the 43 get clear and try to use the outside to catch up to your leaders. And actually, he has a moment there downshifting that's going to cost him 2 spots.
They are heavy fighting for third on back, but they're taking a look at the car that's running away. Near spinner, that's Brandon Banks down the straightaway. He saves it in turn 3.
Oh, and he almost gets into Chris Kroger. That was a close call.
Merging back in traffic, that's Richard Swavely, CJ Munier in the foreground. Still battling for third with 8 laps to go. And Alex Muscarella, who was 6 laps away from his first victory this year at Daytona, is staring down 7 laps to go next time by with a hard-charging Steven Stempian right behind him. What do you think now?
Well, we know Stempian has played the patient game all night long, and really so has Muscarella, who's just not been in this position. But we know how good these drivers have been, and let's see what happens here with now 7 laps to go. Stempian, great driver. He's won here before. What can he do to get past this 48?
And the last time by, Stempian a hair faster, 32.210. Muscarella setting a 30.277. But this fight isn't clearly over with only 2 cars, because Lawson Peel just beat Stephen Harlow. He's back in clean air and back in a single file train. Lawson was right in the going with Stempian at the end of stage 2. And here he is with a possible chance at getting back to the point onboard look with the Mississippi native entering turn 1. 1, 2, 3. Back with 6 laps to go.
It could be any one of these 3. Or even somebody else. And oh, Muscarella's loose. Here comes the 88.
Will Stempian make a move? Yes. Darts to the inside in turn 3. He's going to try to look under. He doesn't have the bottom quite yet, and Lawson Peel says, let's get a move going in turn 4. Muscarella makes contact with the teammate side by side with 5 laps to go.
And here comes Lawson Peel. Which way does he go?
He'll look to the inside, possibly. Got rejected from 3 abreast. Steven Stempian, the race leader in turn 2.
He made contact with the bumper of the 88. Muscarella loose, but he's able to hang on to P2. Stephen Harlow lurking in the background. I don't think Muscarella's out of this just yet, Kenneth. He still has an opportunity to make something of it, but he's going to have a bad 3 and 4. Here comes Lawson Peel, who is on better tires than the 88. This could be a classic between Peel and Stempian.
They're all switching lanes. Remember, the last time by, Lawson Peel had to run the very top just to get a bit of that clean air, while Stempian had to run the bottom. And caution flag is out with 4 laps to go. It is Cedric Hunter in trouble with Brad Fulham, I believe, in turn 1.
And we're going to have an overtime finish from Sin City.
And the stage sweeper this season, or this race, Cedric Hunter, is down to the garage and to his pit stall as he got into big-time trouble with the Canadian Brad Fulham. 2 Canadians involved in the incident. I believe it started with Hunter at the back of this, so it began here with Brad Fulham. We'll take a better look at how that all unfolded. It was a side-by-side moment with, I believe, CJ Munier. There's Warren Kyle Keith, Brandon Banks. So as Fulham gets around, he's loose off turn 4. Oh, and he just loses it on his own accord, slides to the grass, and I think the re-entry is where he catches Hunter. Yeah, right here. Oh, what a hit.
Oh, that is a huge hit there as well at the end of the pit lane.
We'll get a look on board from Fulham.
See right here, he goes through the grass. just starts jumping up and down. Fortunate enough not to have the Tyler Reddick flip, but right here, hard hit to the outside wall, and then Cendric Connor head on. Jolts him, increases his speed significantly, and into the inside wall he goes. And we have a handful of cars on pit road, not many. Eric Schaefer is one of those that make their way into the pit lane. You have the 23 of Zachary Hall, 7 of Chris Progard, just a handful of guys coming in. Probably going to make a move here to get a top 10 finish, but what does this mean now for the restart? We know P1 has an advantage when it comes to launching, Kenneth. But what can Lawson Peel, Stephen Harlow, or Alex Muscarella do to try and still win this race?
Well, they have tons of weapons out there that they can use to their advantage. And with what we saw in that last run, all 3 of them gave a pretty decent punch. I mean, Stempien getting away from Muscarella there in those last several laps. You look at what Lawson Peel did to get to the inside of Muscarella. Stephen Harlow, although we almost counted him out there in the waiting laps, he's still here in P4, and he was in touch with those guys at the podium for the most part. So either one of them could take this race lead away, but as we saw at Daytona just 1 week ago on Sunday, you can have 2 cars at the front of the field off the final corner. If they tango, that 3rd car or 4th car may be the breakaway machine to win this race. We'll try and get a word with the man sitting on the front row for this next restart for overtime. That is Steven Stempien, who will join us now. Steven, do you got a copy of this?
Black. What's going on, buddy?
All right, Steven. Well, this is a overtime restart. 2 laps to go at the stripe. What are you thinking here?
I'm just hoping these tires got enough to last these few laps. Obviously, Lawson's done a pretty good strategy the last few cautions to cycle out his left or rights. You know, I'm kind of content with whatever happens, and hopefully I can get a win. My son just woke up. He's down here watching the broadcast, so hopefully he brings me some luck.
Well, hopefully he'll be cheering at the end of this one. You've got a tough task ahead of you with 2 laps to go. Thank you for the time. Best luck on the OT restart.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
And it's Steven Stempien who will lead this one back to the green flag, and for the first time this season, we'll be entering Droppin the Hammah overtime. We'll get a restart inside 2 laps to go, just like this. If the leader catches the white flag without a caution waving across the speedway, we're ending this race no matter what happens. However, if a caution does wave before the leader gets to the white flag, we'll double them up and do it again. We have several attempts to finish this race under green. If we are not able to do so, and the leader never gets to the white flag before a caution comes out, we will finish this one under the yellow flag from Barney the Flagman.
Look at this. The 88 took the outside.
So Stempien up high with his teammate Harlow to follow behind. Peel and Muscarella in the first 2 rows on the inside to the Geico restart zone. Overtime from Las Vegas starts right now.
Great restart by Peel. He's hanging on there. He's side drafting going into turn 1. Contact.
And they make contact to turn 1. Peel is there for the race lead.
He timed the restart well, and is the choice to take the outside going to haunt Steven Stempien, who's still there.
He's looking for headway off of turn 2, and they remain door to door. Look at the peak under for 3rd. That's Richard Swavely, the Hemlock Toyota Camry, who started this race near the front. Will chance for a podium. Off the final corner, Lawson Peel to the white flag. Will we stay green?
We do stay green, but Stempien's not out of it quite yet. He's going to have at least one more opportunity to make a move for this lead. He's going to look to the inside. He drives it in a little deep, gets cut off by Lawson Peel. The 88 drifts up the racetrack, and I think that's going to do it for Steven Stempien. He's trying to hang on for second.
And here comes Swavely, the peak inside, possibly for the P2 spot. Lawson Peel is away by a car length or 2, and off the final corner, it's win number 1 in 2025 for Lawson Peel. Checkered flag at Las Vegas.
Wow, and a photo finish for second. Swavely takes it away from Stempien at the line.
And the Columbus, Mississippi native of Lawson Peel steps up at the green flag restart in overtime to get his first win of the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series season. And they're stepping to give the congratulations. Hard-fought effort by both of the Chevrolets at the end. And how about the race that happened tonight? Plenty of 3 wide, plenty of great racing throughout. And it's a man who dominated the Sunoco Cup Series for the last 3 years, taking the top step of the podium tonight from Las Vegas. There's his teammate Eric Schaefer to go along with the celebrations. But for the first time in the inaugural Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series season, Lawson Peel enters DTH victory lane.
Lawson Peel is definitely going to be very happy about this win, Kenneth, considering that he was out of the All-Star race on lap 4 on Wednesday and never really got to have an opportunity to showcase the speed and what he could do to try and win that All-Star race for himself. So he tried to do his best to come out here and have a great run, and this is about the best result he can have. Let's watch that restart again that ultimately won him this race.
And it was pivotal that he got to the inside of Steven Stempien, possibly who made that decision, Francisco, to get a push from his teammate Stephen Harlow. It only makes sense. So he gets up high, and it's a bit of a sluggish start there for Stempien. I believe that's where Peel catches the Massachusetts native off guard, and by the time he's here, they make door-to-door contact, but they are nearly even to turn 1, and that is where Peel makes his money. As soon as he beats Steven Stempien to the next several corners, that is basically what settles the dust at the end of it.
And look how low he stayed there to not let Stempien get a good enough side draft. But that side draft that Peel had on the front straightaway as they were getting up through the gears, that was very clutch and very important for him to keep an opportunity to stay side by side, because ultimately that was the winning move.
And as soon as he was up front by a couple car lengths, it didn't take long for Peel to settle his position. And although Stempien tried to deal one last effort in turn 1, by the time he washes up in turn 2, that is too much space to overcome in the final corners without a mistake. And how about Richard Swavely, who led some laps tonight, was at the back for a good amount of this race, was back and forth, and then off turn 4 gets the run of a lifetime, beats Stempien to the line by 11 one-thousandths of a second.
We have a line, one for that right here. Let's see if we can kind of capture this. It's hard. They're going at speed. Let's time this out frame by frame if we're able to. Can't find the button. I'll make sure I can get a good angle of that, Kenneth.
It was very close to the line. We'll see if we can get another good shot at how that all unfolded. So this is the look at the start-finish line. That is 11 one-thousandths of a second. Possibly a foot, maybe less, between Swavely and Stempien for that second place position. From Las Vegas, we have our unofficial results, and for the first time in 2025, Lawson Peel is a race victor with Richard Swavely back in second. And for Swavely, after finishing at Daytona 13th, he will love this podium effort. Steven Stempien back in third place. Stephen Harlow gave a tough fight, but he ends up fourth. Chris Cabot, strong all night long and ends up with a top 5 finishing position. Alex Muscarella there near the end falls back to P6 at the checkered flag. Brandon Banks back in 7th. James Kunkel back in 8th. CJ Munier picks up a 9th place finish. And Warren Kyle Keith, strong all night long, ends up with a top 10.
The 11 will go to the 77 of Kevin Roy with Chris Trogar in the 12th position. Justin Erb will finish in the 13th spot. Zachary Hall, who was fast in the first few stages, will finish 14th. Justin Hendry, involved in a couple of incidents, in the 15th position. Eric Schaefer will finish in the 16th spot with Tony Kibbett in 17th. Ross Harlow will finish in 18th. Richard Modritz in 19th. And Dakota Curtis, who was involved in an incident coming to the white flag, will round out last car on the lead lap in 20th.
And then we'll look back to those 21st on back, starting with D-Legacy Motor Club's Casey Neiden, Brad Fulham in 22nd, Cedric Hunter, who found trouble early and late, 23rd for the sweep stage winner tonight. Dylan Hervatin, who led a bunch of laps, is back to 24th. Sean Kalis, Robert Moyer Jr., Jason Hastings, and Eric Stewart bring the end to the 28th car field that took on Las Vegas tonight, with only one getting the W. And for the first time this season, it's Lawson Peel who joins us from Droppin' the Hammah victory lane. Lawson, it was second last week at Daytona. Satisfactory, but not a checkered flag. What does it mean to get the first W of the season just in race 2?
Well, that one was hard fought right there. I didn't think I was going to get that one a few times there. There were some late race cautions, and then I was kind of off strategy with when I was taking tires. I came in and, had a tire advantage, and then we had another caution, and then they had a tire advantage, and then had another one after that, and I was back on the advantage for the last 10 laps or so there. So had a good restart with about 10 to go. when I was in ninth, I think, and got to fifth pretty quickly. Had just a really, really tough battle with Stephen Harlow there, and just had to use everything I had to get around him. He was doing a great job of just kind of keeping me right there. And um, I had a run on Stimpian and Muscarella when they were side by side coming into one that time, and I gave Stimpian a shot, and then I realized my car was just going to go straight, and I was going to run into Alex, so I had to slam the brakes there, lost a bunch of momentum, had to get that back, and then right when I got there, that caution came out, and I didn't think I was going to have a very good opportunity there, restarting second. And then when Stimpian took the top, I thought that was, kind of putting me at worse odds. But it was just a really good restart there, kind of a low percentage one that they work out that good. So just launched with him and then was able to just pull him right back, get it in the corner and shoot the bottom, tried to hold it wide open, and then just really had to send it into three to clear him there. And it all worked out.
It appeared tonight, Lawson, that nobody had a clear advantage over the other. We had many a race leader throughout this race. You were one of them, Stempian the other, and plenty other guys that just got their name into the list of those to lead a lap here at Las Vegas tonight. What did it take out of you to put yourself in a position where there have been so many alternate strategies and tire sets being used throughout this race that it was almost nearly a gamble to get yourself at the front near the end? What was that like?
Yeah, it was certainly, a lot of tire strategy involved. I was trying to just kind of run a smooth, consistent pace, and you saw guys like Kunkel and Dakota Curtis. They were really kind of pedal to the metal early in a run. They would get out there, and then they would kind of come back at the end of the run. Stimpian and I were kind of doing the same thing, but I was really surprised that I felt like I was just going nice and smooth on new tires, but it was really, I was kind of getting my doors blown off. And then I would kind of get most of that back on a long run, but when we had cautions, you wouldn't get it back. So a lot of tire strategy, and this is one of those tracks you just gotta watch how you drive it because you can kind of pay for it on the long run. So, but it makes for a really good race.
Well, you snagged the jackpot for sure tonight in an overtime restart from Las Vegas, and it's probably a perfect start to the season, apart from if you had won Daytona. Second place last week, first place here at the first mile and a half of the season. So now looking forward, how much momentum do you have as we get into the rest of our West Coast swing?
Yeah, sometimes I get off to kind of a slow start, so it feels really nice to get off to a good start to the season. I think the only thing that would have made it better is if Kip won the race last week. I really wanted to see him win the race, and so, but yeah, second then first, it's a really good start, and hopefully just keep up that momentum.
I mean, not bad to kick off 2025. Lawson, congratulations on the win. Before we let you go from Las Vegas, anybody in particular that you want to shout out or thank for tonight?
Yes, thanks to all the league admins, thanks to you guys in the broadcast booth, and thanks to my Drinking Bros teammates, Paul's Setup Shop.
I think there may have been some magic involved here because Chase Elliott wins the Clash at Bowman Gray
yes.
Stadium, and the Chase Elliott car wins at Las Vegas.
I forgot to mention that because I was thinking about that a minute ago, and I just forgot to mention it. But I'm equally as excited about that. I can guarantee you. So I can't wait to go watch this broadcast and that.
Well, the same car gets in victory lane on either end. Lawson, congratulations on the win from Sin City, and good luck to you and the rest of the field as we head on to Phoenix in a couple weeks' time.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Lawson Peel, the victor from Las Vegas. It took a heavily contested fight, and by 11 1/1000ths of a second, Francisco, Richard Swabley gets second place at the end.
Well, Richard, we saw you run really good at the beginning of the race. It kind of went away towards the middle section. But here you are. You're on the podium. Take us through that race.
Yeah, that was wild. That was actually one of the really, really fun race. I always enjoy when we get cars that we can actually you have to wheel a little bit because they get a little free. But no, it was fun. That middle run after the first stage, I was the guys were saving the first stage and they ended up catching us up front, and then I decided to start saving a little bit and got in that big old mess, and I just kind of was just trying to get out of the mess, and that didn't work out that well, but hell of a drive back to the front. I was back down to 25th, 26th at one point, so yeah, I am super stoked to get a second place. It's been a while since I've been able to come in the booth up here.
And just kind of talk us through what the car went through those changes, because we saw you in the early portion of the race. Well, you were running great, and then in the middle it kind of just went away. There was plenty of comers and goers, but then towards the end there, you're able to pick the pace back up. So what was the difference in the track between the beginning and the end, where it was more favorable?
It was just hotter, slicker through the first part of the race. Like I said, that when I fell back in the middle of the race, I was more just trying to stay out of keep my nose clean, and then started running a little bit better. The pit strategy, there's kind of like a really big ebb and flow in the pit strategy that last stage, but I do want to apologize to Dylan Hervada, and me and him got together. He turned in a little later into the corner, or a little sooner into the corner than I thought, or I just turned in late. It was either way, he was up top and I got into him, so I kind of blame myself for that. But no, it was fantastic run, especially since I got my heavy metal brethren of Hemlock on the car this week. So,
well, amen to that. Rock on, Richard. A great P2 effort here. Give you the shout outs to everybody else makes this happen for you in the number 32.
Yeah, a big shout out to, of course, the new team I started this year, Heavy Metal Jesus Motorsports. Warren Kalkeith, he's a good buddy of mine. He's been helping me out a lot. Just figuring out how to drive these things, because I know, like, the last couple seasons and the spiritual predecessor to this league, I was not having a fun time in the next gens, but I'm definitely figuring them out a lot. And then, of course, Hemlock World for letting me put them on the car, and it did so good this week. I think I might keep them on the car for next week.
Definitely would love to see that back on the card next week, Richard. Once again, congrats on the strong effort here tonight, and we hope to see you out next week.
Thank you, guys.
That's Richard Swavely finishing in second by 11 one-thousandths of a second. There is the gap to Steven Stempian, who ends up our third place finisher. And we've got a special guest here in the broadcast booth. That is the little Stempian right here. Steven, welcome to the broadcast booth. I know this race a little short in comparison to what you probably expected there at the end, but take us through those final 2 laps on the overtime.
Yeah, no, it was, like I said before I came up, I knew Lawson had fresher tires than I did, and it was just trying to hold on, and I didn't really have that good of a restart that I wanted to have, and obviously I was dealing with this guy that I wanted to have there on the restart, but I'll take it. Top 3. I really wanted to get that win. Start the season off with a win early, so I don't have to worry about anything. But it's not gonna be the last time that me and Lawson are battling for a win. I can promise you that. So I'm not too worried about it. He got it this time, and we'll get him next time.
Well, if there's anything I learned after covering the Sunoco Cup Series for a couple years, especially that last season, it was Steven versus Lawson. You guys will go at it on track as hard as you guys can every single week, and this seemed to be another proper example of it. But talk about the field. This was a big race dependent on strategy. Lots of the yellows flew late in stage 3. How did you maneuver the tire sets you had available versus how much you guys had to make it on fuel? Because at some points it was a pretty close call.
Yeah, it was interesting, watching those guys, having experience at Vegas, knowing you have to keep your tires under you and try to adjust. And then you see these guys get out. Hold on for a second, buddy. The King, Richard, the King. Seeing those guys get out to a 2-second gap or a 3-second gap, it's hard to have that mindset where you just stay locked in and stay consistent and know you're going to eventually catch up to them, right? Because you see that and you see them pulling away 20, 25 laps in, and you're like, what the heck's going on? Did I not nail this strategy? But staying disciplined and just sticking with it all night. I mean, that's what I did all night long. Just stuck with what I wanted to do. But there was a lot of different strategies. My bad. I want to apologize to some of the league where I threw that caution. I thought there was a caution needed for that spin in front of the pits there. But I'll adjust next time. I would like to see some green flag pit stops, but some good strategy. Dakota, Kunkel, those guys, they led a bunch of laps, hauling butt and taking names early, and it was good to see. It was a big field, and had a lot of leaders and some people in the top 5, top 10 that I would have saw. Yeah, we're gonna go to bed. That I wouldn't have thought I'd see tonight. So it was good to see. But looking forward to Phoenix. I haven't been there in a couple of years. I haven't been there since I think my rookie season in Sunoco. So.
Well, it's an 11th place finish last week at Daytona. Big step up tonight from Las Vegas. Third, that'll get you a pretty good boost in the point standings. We have one more question before we let you and Little Stempion go. Does Little Stempion have any words to say about his dad's performance?
You got anything to say? What do you think? How did I do tonight? 5? High 5? How did I do? Did I do good? 3? 5? 4? 4? I'll take a 4.
Okay.
4 out of 5?
All right.
So you want to say hi to these guys? Say hello.
Well,
he's dying.
Well, we send our well wishes to Little Stempion. Hopefully he gets to bed sooner than later. Steven, congratulations on the 3rd place finish. Before we let you and Little Stempion bounce, any words of encouragement, shout outs you want to give for tonight's race?
Yeah, obviously you guys for the work you guys do. Obviously appreciate you guys. Can't wait to look at the broadcast tomorrow, go back and watch it. And obviously the admin team got good support here, helping me make this possible, and a good group of drivers. I got a couple of messages tonight saying they're pretty happy with how the league's going, so makes me feel good. And then obviously everybody on my Droppin the Hammah team and TOW, we worked well together tonight. We knew exactly what we need to do for strategy and keep our tires underneath us. Kind of thought it was going to be me and Alex at the end battling for a win. I would have taken either one of us in victory lane, but we'll get there. And we're on to Phoenix.
Well, Steven, congratulations on the podium tonight from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Hopefully the next time we talk to you both, he's going to give a 5 out of 5 for the performance and a W
5 out of 5
in 2025. Congrats on the 3rd place. We'll see you at Phoenix in 2 weeks.
I'll see you guys later. Have a good night.
That is Steven Stempion. Oh, so cute. That is awesome stuff, Francisco. Steven Stempion in 3rd place. Obviously, as happy as ever, despite the fact that he came home short of the race victory.
I got shades of Riley Curry and Stephen Curry there, didn't you?
I don't know. Perhaps I did a little bit.
I mean, it was still a great effort from Steven to emphasize that strategy. You heard him talking about it there, just holding back, letting it come to him. But those caution flags definitely threw a wrench into all that, and eventually had to adapt and almost came away with the win due to being able to adapt so well to it, and is able to walk away with the podium finish. And we'll be seeing what he's able to do moving on to Phoenix from a fantastic race here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It did not disappoint.
Well, we've had 2 bangers to start 2025 in this inaugural Droppin the Hammah Cup Series season, and we continue on for race number 3, our 2nd of 3 races on the West Coast in Sim. We head to Avondale, Arizona. Phoenix Raceway will bring our first short track race of the campaign on February 10th. I believe that is February 12th. Actually, that is next time by. So in about 2 weeks' time, we'll have 16th, as a matter of fact. It's hard to see the numbers sometimes, but February 16th, that'll be our next race in 2 weeks' time, so we will take our first off week for the Super Bowl in New Orleans with the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone, including us, will be watching the big game from home, maybe sometimes from the stadium, depending on the person and where they're at, and if they have some nice tickets for the stadium. But Phoenix will be back in 2 weeks' time. Then we'll head to Auto Club Chicagoland, and we'll continue on through the rest of this long and grueling 2025 season. That'll do it for us from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. On behalf of Steven Stempion, Chris Progar, and the entire admin team at the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series for making this all happen. For Charlie Beyer, Eli Comerford, and Keelan Belsha at the KBueno Racing Network for all their hard support. And for all of us on the broadcast tonight, from my colleague in the booth, Francisco Bacallao, I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long from Vegas. Congratulations to Lawson Peel on his first win of the season. A hard-fought race. We'll see you in Phoenix in 2 weeks' time.